Coming down to
Does he have it?
He's going to get it.
Haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's gonna do it! Big Barry! Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Do we make it easy? We do not. This week, it is the mammoth mountain that is Targa Florio.
We begin on Italy's SS120 at the official Targa Florio start-finish line. There, a purpose-built complex of structures adorned with Ferrari and Alfa Romeo signage of the era stands as they do today, though faded like shadows of the past. Moving south, slowly gaining elevation, we pass local residences and businesses, many of which still remain as they did. Drivers are already greeted by rather splendid vistas of the local countryside and views of the hills and mountain peaks, which will draw ever closer. As drivers pass lush farmland and vineyards, they approach the first village of Cerda. This thriving Sicilian town is something of a metropolis with 3 to 5 story buildings the norm. Spectators and drivers are thrilled by the echoing roar of engines as cars blast down the Via Roma Strait. And just like that, Cerda is behind, and it's time to start climbing. The next segment is filled with blind corners and promises of pushing just a little more. Drivers will need to stay steady as there are tricks and traps aplenty. Knowing the fast and slow zones will separate top talent from the mid-pack, but no one is safe from a potential mistake from exceeding limits or random debris. And a single sideways car on the track could be devastating for all. The first notable feature is the switchbacks at Sclafani Bagni. During the days of the big race, this area was adorned with beautiful flora and fauna. Today, spring and summer still show some of the coloration, but nothing of the glory it once was. Not quite halfway, drivers take a hard turn east and cross a small bridge. We are now just a stone's throw away from Caltavuturo. Located on the side of the mountain Rocca di Schiara, this small city is larger than Cerda and has gorgeous views of the surrounding landscape. The original longer version of the race ran through here, but by the 60s, the course was shortened, and drivers would be diverted from the SS120 to Strada Provinciale 24, where they will cut along some very demanding cliffsides. We are now in Sector 2 of the track. The racers then clear a large bridge south of the town of Scilado, now about halfway through this demanding course. Great concentration is needed as drivers work their way back north along these dangerous cliffs. After climbing switchbacks through forested areas and rock outcroppings, the scene comes upon lots of farmland and open fields. We then head due north towards Calassano. Drivers enter Sector 3 near the populous little city of Calassano. Nestled between some of the smaller mountains, the buildings rise high around the streets. While fast in sections, there are some very sharp turns to contend with as cars plunge down through the tight and twisting streets. At this point, it feels as though the end is nearing, but there's still a ways to go. The field continues north and west, racing towards the coast on SP9, passing Sant'Agata, which is roughly halfway between Calassano and Campo Felice. The pace quickens and there is an urge to go faster, but there are still many guardrails and walls to greet the overeager. Finally, Campo Felice comes into view. The warm-colored buildings welcome drivers to the cobblestone streets and fans cheer on the rushing pack. Still, there are some turns to contend with and drivers will need to navigate successfully to keep their times down. Exiting the heart of the city, they race through faster and faster bends, finally coming to the coastal road of Strada Statale 113. This straightaway gives anxious drivers needed relief as they open up the throttle and push their machines to the max. For a moment, arms can rest while speeds reach up to 300 kilometers per hour. But damaged suspension or slipstreaming competitors can still make this long stretch a challenge. This is about the only chance they'll have to quickly assess their car's condition and determine what's needed for a rapidly approaching pit stop. But it's not over yet. At the end of the long straight, racers must choose their braking point carefully, as there are still some turns left entering Buono Fornello. And if they don't get it right, one of the businesses or home fronts could become their final resting point, so close to the finish. Just a dozen or so corners to clear, a tight left south, past the garage area, and there are the stands and pit road entrance. Drivers must quickly decide to turn hard left for service or take a deep breath and plow ahead for yet another lap. And if they see the checkered flag, they will breathe a sigh of relief and feel like a champion, no matter their final position.
Okay, guys, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me. I am James Parfit. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Bradley Dalton here this afternoon, and we've got Paul Glover, director on cameras in our era. Oh, what fun we're going to have. But we are back with a VWSC Historics 1964. Have we ever done a track like this before in our life? Absolutely not. Let's catch you up with the schedule as it stands at the moment. This is where we currently are at the schedule. As you can see, we have done Daytona, we have done Sebring. We are here at Targa Florio for 3 laps for today. Then we go to Spa-Francorchamps on the 13th of April, Le Mans for the 2.4 hours on the 4th of May. Reims on the 6th of July, and then the Coppa Carlotti hill climb on the 27th of July. For some reason, I'm really looking forward to how that one's going to work. Coppa Diana on the 10th of August, Goodwood on the 17th of August, Nürburgring on the 5th of October, Monza on the 26th of October, Bridgehampton on the 16th of November, Provence Alps hill climb on the 30th of November, and then we're off to Paris, the city of love, for the 100 minutes around Paris on the 7th of December. The track today, we talk about it as if it's a mammoth mountain. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a absolute mammoth circuit length circuit. 45 miles of what can only be deemed as, well, a test of everything. Literally everything. There is not one part of this circuit where you are going to be able to relax. There's not one part of the circuit that you can sit back and think, oh, this bit's easier than the other. And it is 45 miles long. It's located in the whole of Sicily in Italy and was established in 1906. The race itself basically was a public road endurance automobile race held in the mountains of Sicily, which is obviously where we are, founded in 1906. It is the world's oldest sports car racing event, and that is just unbelievable. You think 174 corners at Nords is well, hard? I think this one is just literally going to be impossible. The challenges here, I do love these challenges this week. You have got to see the challenges. Are you ready? The challenges for this week are survive, survive, survive. That is it. Nothing else. Survive, survive, survive. That is literally the challenges itself here at Targa Florio. The tyres, well, we all know they're on street tyres and they have been all the way through. That's not going to change. They're not all of a sudden going to go over to super slick Michelins or Goodyears. It's literally street tyres. And guess what? Street tyres. So nothing is changing there as well. In the standing situation, however, that is a little bit more exciting in the Div 3 Pros first. You can see on your screen, Magnus Dahlgren is leading the way on 18.3 with JT Tammy on 18.1. Bradley Sellers on 12.6, Ross Smith on 10.25, Eva Funk on 6. Now, I do love this from Tumon Suvic. I'm not really sure how he's got 5.8000000 recurring until he gets to the 1. That's new. Carl Vesser on 1.6 with Brian Hall on 1.3. Mike Bell in 8th. Angus Tong, Jason White, Dave Coors, Tom Lane, Alexander Schultz, Nicholas Hildebrand, and Miguel Ramos not scored yet. Emmy Racing Ferrari out in front on 24.1. Again, Smile Power Racing Shelby 13.3999999 recurring. Didn't know that was a thing either on points. Rookie Monsters Shelby Daytona on 10.9, and then Storm Rider Racing Shelby on Daytona on 2.25. Scuderia on no points at the moment. In the Div 3 AMS, we've got it again. How do we end up with 11.6? I will clear that up very shortly. Barry Chen out in front on 26.1 with George Angelidis on 17.4. Barry DeMarzo on 11.600 recurring until you get to the 1. John Mayer on 5.80000 recurring until we get to the 1. Yaroslav Zakchik on 4.8. Tom Mountjoy, Peter Meyer, no points there. Flying Kiwi Racing on 31.9. Scuderia Cavalli Ferrari 250 GTO on 29 points. In the Division 1 and 2 pros at the moment, well, this is a nice big old one. As you can see, Elko Busanic is out in front on 18.3 with Cameron Barker 12.5, Dan Herlock, on 12.2, Ben Borman 8.6, Dan Kirby 6.4, Becky Ely 5.2, Darren Andrews 4.8, David Jun, Alfredo Cabrero, and Alexei Zaragodniev, I think, in 10th, and then Diego Castro, Oliver Day, Alexander there in 13th, and Scar Pope with Craig Pullen on the 1.45000. So we'll get to the 2. Mkhitaryan on 16th, Reeks Gardner in 17th, Oliver Newman, Jill Lalonde, Nikita Smirnov, John Uyan, Declan Grady, Matthew Overton, Ollie Carginolanti, who still has a penalty outstanding if he shows up, Luca Tavernari, Tony McCoffin and Robert Strackland all on 0. Then in the teams is Joy Motorsport Porsche on 904, GTS on 19.1, CMS Pro Alfa Romeo Giulia 18.9, 13.8 in third for the Fukigo Mike Bell, Alpha Australia Vectus in 5th, Lufthansa Porsche in 7th, Cyberlink in 8th, Sissit Automobiles 9th, and then the others below that. In the AMS, it is Eric Monet out in front on 22.2, James Bowders on 13.5, Adam Gray on 12.5 with Luke Goodlife on 6.4, Pavel Shenoborov in 5.2, Matthias Bogle 4.8, Felipe Marazzi, Stephen Miller, Fernando Ferreira, Felipe Dicardi, Santiago de Cajor, and Matvia Treshev has not scored points. Mistral 747 out in front on the 22.2, Reptile Racing on 18.9, Gasso Links Racing on 5.2, Mistral Targa Porsche on 2.25. That is the point situation. Thank you so much for joining me, but I have got one Mr. Bradley Dalton alongside me. Bradley, welcome in, buddy. How are you?
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm glad to see you're awake, James, as I was worried about 20 minutes ago.
I'm here. I'm alive.
He's here. He's alive. He's still maybe trying to get awake, but he's here. But I'm doing good. I've never commentated Targa Florio. I've never commentated a race like this before. Me and Mr. George Angelidis sat down for about 30 minutes earlier today, and me and him talked all things Targa Florio. I'm going to save it for as we go through the broadcast. But I'm going to point out one thing right now. Our pole sitter is Becky Ely, James, in a Lotus. Division 1 in a Lotus is our pole sitter. We talked about it in Daytona round 1, that there were tracks that the Division 1 cars and the Division 2 cars would really stand out. And this is one of those tracks.
Yeah, it is. We're all going to be so close anyway this season. We knew that. That was the thing, wasn't it? You know, and we always were told that it's possible that somebody out of the ordinary could go and win and take pole. And at the moment, Becky Ely is out in front in that Lotus 23B Ford 72 there. So I think going forward, we'll see how this one pans out. I'd be interested in seeing how some of these guys come through the field. If they're going to, is Dan Kirby going to come through? What's the situation going to be? It's going to be very, very interesting. Welcome into YouTube. If you are here, there was a lot of people here before we'd even gone live. Mr. Reeks, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Stacey Scotsman, Scots Game, is also here. Thank you, much love to you. Neil Borman. Ross there, the points have odd decimals because back in the day you used to do weighted scoring based on the event. We're applying a formula similarly, back it doesn't always neatly round off. No, it didn't. Kim D, welcome in. Thank you so much as well. And obviously we've got Mr. Glover on the background. So the grid, as we've got at the moment from the qualifying results that have been taking place, we've got Becky Ely on pole with Alko Busanic in second, Oliver Day in third with Dan Kirby in fourth, Magnus Dahlgren fifth. Then we've got David Jun, Daniel Hurlock, Timon Subic, Tom Lane, Cameron Barker, your top 10. Santiago Dancourt in 11th, Alexander Schultz down in 12th. Scar Pope in 13th, Bradley Sellers in 14th, Luca Tavani in 15th, Diego Castro in 16th, and then we've got the race on your screen. I believe they're not on a pace lap. That is correct, right? There was not a pace lap here, is there?
Correct. Just because of the nature of this track, the way things set up, no pace lap. I believe it is just right away and go. As far as I know, it is an orange zone, of course, through turn 3. But I don't think there is any pace. There's no way. It is just straight away.
Yeah. As you can see, we are up and running and underway here. There is a few more cars on the grid, but John Uyan is already showing in the lead with a 55-second gap, which I'm a little bit confused about. I'm also confused about why they're on lap 2 already. Not entirely sure how that's all working out, so we'll keep an eye and have to try and see what we can do with the live timing. It is a big old circuit, there's lots to contend with, so I think overall these guys are going to have a tough one here. Brad, I hope you memorized every single part of the corner names there, buddy, because obviously, you know, it's an interesting way.
Yeah, this track is long, it's furious, it's ferocious. In James, I believe it was put the stipulation for you to memorize all the corner numbers, of course, being something over 800 corners. Nobody's going to memorize everything, but if anyone can do it, it is a Mr. James Parfit, so I will defer to you for that. But what I will say is if you don't want to memorize the corner names or the corners themselves, just remember some of the big towns. Remember some of those big towns from that starting video, because that is what will divide this track out for the drivers.
Yeah, it definitely will. Here as these guys are running now, you see Becky Ely in her Lotus 23B Ford. We've got a funny feeling she is in the lead. I think the live timing is not loving what's happening right about now, because currently Becky Ely is out in front. There is nobody ahead of her on the circuit, okay? Despite what you're being told from the live timing, there is nobody ahead of her. Currently, Becky Ely is out in front, so making great headways in that Lotus 23B Ford there. There's some interesting battles away through. I think Scar Pope's got a little bit of a line of cars behind him currently, so Scar getting himself in the mix in 15th at the moment. As you can see there, Scar Pope in the Alpine A110. So good job from him. He's got Luca Tavanari, Diego Castro, Reece Gardner all tucked up behind him at the moment. Now we've had an interesting one here as well. As you can see, the cars just trying to go too wide, trying to make the overtake. Is it ever going to work? Well, it's going to be very, very tight here, Brad. These roads are not very wide.
Yeah, that's part of the fun with Targa Florios. This is all public 2-lane roads. This is not a traditional what you would think of a racetrack. This is just going to be, think of it as you're driving to your mom's house out in the countryside. For me, that's what I think of. It's very narrow roads. It's not meant to be a racetrack. This wasn't designed with that in mind. This is just meant for a drive through the countryside. So you're going to have drivers like Scar Pope here and Santiago Dancourt that are going to be under pressure quickly, but it's going to be very tough to pass all the way through because it is very it's challenging. They stopped racing this track in the 70s just because it was deemed too dangerous, too narrow, and the cars got way too fast for it. Thankfully, we still have it in sim, but it's very unique.
Unique is a little bit of an understatement, isn't it, really? You know, I think this is the thing for this situation. It's a bit of an understatement here. So you see, once we go on to the replay now, and that was Adam Gray taking a DNF there after what can only be deemed as probably the first 50 corners, as he is unfortunately gone shooting off there, which is unfortunate for him. Mentally, this circuit's tough. Physically, the circuit's tough. memory-wise, the circuit's tough. You've got to try and remember all of the corners, where you are on the circuit. Are you going to basically be able to hit your braking point every single time? Have you got a little bit of a, a cheat going on? Do you have the driver's line on, or whatever you're allowed here to have this as much help as possible, because this is a very, very long track to remember everything.
Yeah, and we saw some unique things in the chat on Discord in the league discussion, where there are drivers that literally are just making notes. They have a notepad out, kind of akin to a rally course. They are just making notes of certain things they want to remember, certain ways the car is going to handle between towns, certain things they want to make sure to note on, because this track, you can memorize the Nordschleife. We talked about the Nordschleife. There's drivers that have memorized other long endurance courses, but this is truly a hard one. And the thing is, this is the shortened version of this track. Targa Florio started out originally as over 100 miles around the entire island of Sicily. So when you think about that, and you kind of narrow it down, a single lap of the original Targa Florio Grande circuit was 606 miles.
Oh, good life's off.
Oh,
Good life. He's just hit the parked car on the left-hand side, unfortunately, for Good Love. Good life there, unfortunately for him. One of the challenges, obviously, the track itself. Survive. Well, Luke Goodlife is definitely giving himself a challenge to try and survive there. John Ewan currently showing that he's got a penalty on that one. We're not quite sure how that's all worked. Shows John Ewan is on lap 2 already. Yeah, the lifetime and Ewan being a lap ahead of everyone, which is strange. Yes, it's all going a little bit Pete Tong at the moment. As we see Oliver Newman unfortunately making contact on the overtake, which didn't quite go through, and unfortunately by the looks of his car, his front wheels are done. So Oliver Newman not having a good time there, Brad.
Yeah, it's all popping off here, and this is going to be the fun thing of just trying to keep eyes of who's who as we go through, and you see people, it's just one small thing. We said this was during that intro video that Ross made, but one small moment can mess everyone up. Elwood's coming in here. It's going to be contacted.
Oh, man.
It's a parking garage. Oh.
What are they doing? Why are you still coming in full pelt? I don't understand. Why are you still going in full pelt? You're not gaining anything. This is poor. They're still coming in.
Yeah, this is it's part of the dangers of this track, but it's just, here comes Chin around.
But yellow flags are waving frantically. Why are you trying to push into a problem that you can clearly see there is a problem?
Yeah, I don't. There's a bump and run. It's part of the problem of this track being so narrow, honestly.
Yeah, but coming rushing into a yellow flag zone, like frantically waving, as you can see, Jill Lalonde having a bit of an issue. And there is Ross Smith, who was also involved in it. So unfortunately there's been a lot going on here over the start. First part of the race. I say first part because I don't even think they've got to the end of lap 1.
Not even close.
No, Adam Gray. Adam Gray's going off to the shops to buy a Costa on the way through. He's even stopped.
Is that a pit? That's... I think... Oliver Newman here, see if we can tell, and... Yeah, he just pulls off there. I don't know what happened there with Oliver Newman, but Oliver Newman just said, you know what, this track is not for me. I'm not feeling this, and pulls away there.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I'd probably do the same. I don't think after, if he's had that collision right at the beginning, that it would be worth them sitting there around here with a damaged car, because it's going to take you ages to get back to the pits, right? So it's going to be incredibly difficult. I wouldn't even figure out the live timing on this point, because yeah, it is gone a little bit Pete Tong, and Johnny Yan has magically Harry Pottered his way on lap 2, which is very bizarre, considering I'm pretty sure we are still on lap 1 here. I'm definitely sure we're on lap 1. So, yeah, I suppose from this side of point of view there, guys, we're going to be 1 lap short on the race, which is not making sense.
I don't know. I don't know how that one's going to work out. That's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm not sure, James, what they'll do about that, because we're expecting 3 full laps. Road signs are not expected to survive, of course, when you've got Oliver Day here battling it out with Mr. Dan Kirby. And as you can see there, it is going to be Day ahead of Kirby with a nice little slide job there around in the Porsche. And so we'll see how things happen. But, you know, James, I'll give you some fun stories. Like I told you, I was talking to George before the race, and we were talking about strategy stuff. How do you think fuel is going to play in across this 3-lap race?
Now, as I remember correctly, isn't there something about the fact that certain cars are not going to have to stop?
Yes, you do remember that correct. There are a few cars that we don't expect to stop at all. Primarily the Corvette.
Yep. So that's JT Tammy's car.
Yep.
Because I think he's the only one that's in the Corvette, isn't he? Yeah, JT Tammy in the Corvette. So, we've got Elko Busenik chasing down Dan Kirby and Oliver Day. Kirby has now got past Day here. This is going to be a very interesting freeway battle, as these guys are going to have this to contend with once more as they battle around this circuit long. Unfortunately, it's long track. Brad, and if you could tell me where they are, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's a very long track, and where I am showing there at, just trying to compare a couple of different notes here, they are currently, as I see it, coming down through Spinazza, which is going to be nearing the end part of Sector 1. They're not even really working the halfway point of the track yet. They're down in the Spinazza, kind of running around here, maybe about a quarter of the way through the lap, if that.
Yeah, so they've already only just a quarter of the way through. Samuel Guy, welcome in. Go Timon. Of course, Timon Suvic is down in... where is Timon Suvic at the moment? He's a long way down, isn't he, currently? So Timon Suvic is in 8th place at the moment as the battle for 7th battle rages on with Jun, Suvic, Herlock and Barker there, and then Sellers and Lane behind him. These guys are tackling the man mountain of Targa Florio. It's going to be very, very interesting, very, very exciting, I'm sure. The course itself, now there's 3 different variants of this course, Brad. You know, we're on the black course, blue course, and green course, or the Piccolo, Medio, and Grand course. That's something that we've got to be looking at here as well.
Yeah, there's the 3 variations, the Piccolo, the Medio, and the Grande course. And of course, the Grande is that beautiful, beautiful 670-mile track around the entire perimeter of Sicily that was ran for up until about 1930s. And then they said, that's a bit too long. And then brought it down into a Medio circuit. What was that? That was in 81, I believe it was, having a little slide. So
yeah, it was.
They brought it down into the Medio circuit, which basically just eliminated most of the perimeter of the island. Ran that for a few years, and then in the 1950s they said, you know what, we'll run the Piccolo circuit, which is what we're running now. They do still use the full circuit for a lap of Sicily. George Angelides here. Sir, you missed your breaking point. The challenge of this track is that you've got to be very on your toes. I think George Angelides decided to go Tony Hawk there and do a couple of kick flips.
I'm not even sure where George went there. I think he went off into a completely different realm on his own, did Mr. Angelidis. And poor old George has not been loving the beginning of this race. It goes with his absolutely horrendous one by his standards that he had last week as well in the modern. There is Mr. Angelidis earlier on going down the grass. Not entirely sure if he knows where he's going. There's a barrier there, George. Did he just bunny hop the barrier?
I think he did. His car just kind of ghosted for a second and went through it, which tells me that maybe those barriers are designed to give a little bit more grace than they should in real life. But hey, lucky for him, he gets through there and is continuing to go. This is, again, the battle for P2 that's showing as P3. Kirby, Day, and Busink are still battling it out for Division 1-2 overall.
Yeah, they're still fighting fighting for the obviously the race at the moment. It's a little bit hard. We have lost the technical appliances. That is the lifetime, and as you can see, it's showing Johnny Young when Becky Ely is out in front. So please remember that Becky Ely is out in front, and then it's Dan Kirby, Oliver Day, Elko Busnik, and David Schutt with Herlock, Cameron Barker, Tabanari, Diego Castro, Reese Gardner, Scar Pope, and Alfredo Cabrera. So, and at the moment, my lifetime is showing everyone all over the place here, Brad. So I think this circuit is not only causing problems for the drivers, but also for the wonderful world of modern technology.
Well, and the thing is, think about how big the circuit is. We talked about this before. It's 45 miles. So, I mean, that's a large ask. And if you think about the fact that most of the time when you're racing, a lap is only going to be a couple minutes long. If you're running the Nürburgring, it might be 10 minutes long at most. We're asking these drivers to run 45-minute laps. That's a lot for anything to handle. Drivers included, technology included, commentators included, our wonderful in-ear bug of Paul included. I mean, it's a lot to handle, and it's a lot to keep track of, so am I surprised to see a little bit of a bug? Not really. Am I concerned about how it's going to affect this race? Yes. However, John Ulian sitting on lap 2, I don't know what caused that. I'm kind of curious if that's not just a glitch through, but I can tell you, doing the quick mental juggle math in my head from timing as we see, somebody going way off the circuit. Kirby just said goodbye and decided he wanted to run off the side of the mountain. Thankfully kept it on the track.
Yeah, Dan Kirby making a very rare mistake here. He is human, is not AI, is Dan Kirby, as we have wondered so many times about the fact that he can just handle tracks differently to everybody else. But I can tell you one thing, one lady that is handling the track rather well is young Becky Ely, as we look again at Dan Kirby. As he's going to be making a lovely error. We'll have to wait about a minute for him to get to where he is going to get to. So we think he's on the run through the SS120 down into Caltavitoro, which is the bottom part of the circuit. You can see he's drifting around, gets it all a little bit wrong, and then unfortunately does not stop the car there. Takes out a couple of speed barriers on the way through. So Dan Kirby there as well. Okay, interesting so far, Brad. I think we can probably safely say.
Yeah, it's been an interesting run. We're about halfway through the lap, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're wondering, oh, well, when do we see the start finish and when does the next lap start? You've still got a long, long time till that comes up. But I've been working out some math here and kind of looking through. Becky Ely ran an 8-minute 29-second in Sector 1. Oliver Day ran an 8-minute 38-second in Sector 1. Becky Ely is currently in the lead by my calculations by about 15 seconds according to the timing board. Of course, having to do some quick mental math because I'm showing a 2,200 second gap. But yeah, about 15 seconds is the lead. So Becky Ely dominating in the Lotus.
Yeah, but then she dominated qualifying as well, didn't she? That's the thing. Her qualifying lap was like 18 seconds ahead of everybody else. So, you know, Becky really sort of being able to use this circuit to the best of her ability. Maybe this is just one of them circuits that she's going to click with.
I think part of it is it's a circuit that she clicks with, and I think it's a circuit that the Lotus clicks with. It's a very, very go-karty, fun little car. And I've talked about how I personally would not drive the Lotus, but on a track like this, it's probably the car you want. It's a very fun little go-kart style of a car, and it's gonna work well here. It's lightweight, it's nimble, you can sling it through all these switchbacks and corners and carry speed, and you're gonna see just obnoxious amounts of pace come out of that Lotus through. Now, granted, depending on how strategy goes, you know, we're expecting the Lotus to have to stop for fuel literally every single lap. But their pit stops are only like 10 seconds for fuel, so we'll see how all of that plays out in the end. But Becky Ely has the pace to make it up.
Yeah, I think by what she's looking at, she's, you know, doing a job where she's going to open up enough gap to be able to do that and then basically go back through. I'm sure the young lady would have been testing and, you know, trying to absolutely get this right as we pick up on Ross Smith here. He's got Ethan Funk closing down behind with De Bruin in the 6th, 7th. This is the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. There is De Bruin in that lovely bright liveried machine there as he's chasing down Funk and Smith in front of him. It's been an interesting start. It's kind of opening up our eyes into what this circuit is all about, really.
Yeah, it really is. And somebody asked in YouTube chat, so where is John Uyen actually? And I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't know. I'm trying to really wonder that myself about where John Uyen is, because I'm kind of looking through. I could see on a live timing map, he's in a mix somewhere, but it's very, very hard for me to tell just sitting where John Uyen is. So we'll keep you posted as soon as we can figure that out through. Hopefully we can figure that out eventually. I want to say somewhere around like P20 overall.
Right. Okay. There we go. We will try and get all of these little bugbears sorted out and issues, of course, going further in. We're not entirely sure that we think we're going to be able to, because I think it's just, it's all gone a little bit P-tongue with the track here. This track producing some very interesting bugs that I'm pretty sure we were not aware of there. But Ross Smith in that 00 machine still got his hands full here with the guys behind, doesn't he? And still trying to battle away.
Yeah, I mean, and Ross Smith is in one of the Div 3 cars. He's in the Shelby Daytona, and it's going to be interesting to really watch and see what he can pull out of that coupe, because the Daytona, it's an interesting car. I like the car, but very much right now, he looks like he's a cork in the bottle with Timon Subic and Schultz behind in the Ferraris. It does look like this Ford versus Ferrari battle is happening. And for this track, I want to tell you the Ferrari is probably better suited.
Well, to be fair, Le Mans 66 was the same way. If anybody hasn't seen that movie of Ford versus Ferrari, if you watch it on Netflix, it's Le Mans 66 if you watch it on Prime, which really makes no difference to me. Yeah, so we'll see. That's another great, interesting film if you haven't watched that already. Although Mr. Smith may be a cork in a bottle there, it's not on him to let them through, is it? It's on them to try and make the overtake.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to be up to the car behind to be able to find that pass through. And if you can't get the pass done, then it's kind of on you. There's not a lot that can be said in that moment for anything here. As we watch, I believe this is Lane and Subic that we are watching battle out here with Scholes just behind. So this is a battle for P3 in the Div 3s or P11 overall. And you can see just how unruly these cars are in the countryside. The Div 3s, you can watch that weight shift, and a lot of this driving for these guys is just trying to keep the weight underneath them and keep the cars pointed in the right direction.
Yeah. I think, to be fair, you've just got to make sure when you're tackling a circuit like this that you actually go and finish it. I think if you finish the circuit, then you're more likely to get points and probably lose a lot of weight, I would have thought. It'd be like sitting in a sauna at some of these points as these guys continue to fight on as we go down into 11th and 12th. No, we're switching back to Monet and Good Life. We see Good Life had a little bit of his own moment earlier on, of course. So, yeah, this is down in the Div 1, Div 2 hands.
Well, I mean, what did we say in the beginning, James? What did we say the keys to the race were? Survive, survive, survive. I mean, as long as you finish, you're going to make points. That's the key. You've got to just finish.
It's not always easy.
It's not. On a track like this, it's not easy.
With something like 600 and something corners to contend with, it's not easy because you're never going to really remember where you are unless you've got some form of amazing memory or you've done so many laps of practice of this circuit that you can actually know where they are and what's coming up and what's being contended with. And you see the great mountain shot behind these race cars as they go hurtling up there. And this is Tom Mountjoy. Well, he's gone. Is he going to come? Here he comes. And that wonderful looking Golf liveried machine there through. George Angelidis, unfortunately, has had a little bit of another ta-ta-ta in that Ferrari. And it looks like he's just got a bit of a slide on. He's going to fuck, unfortunately, there as well. So, Mr. Wood, flames coming out the back of his machine. And he's gone off into the shadow realm on the left.
Oh my gosh.
On the left-hand side, completely missed his braking point and just went up through the field. And the last one here will be Scar Pope, who has literally done the same as pretty much most of the other people on this racetrack. Took it off the side of the circuit, missed the braking point, and off they went. I'll tell you one thing with that incident with Scar Pope, right? I do love the fact that Scar didn't even slow down. He come out and was literally just full boring that circuit. He literally was going to jump that thing at the end. The only thing I wish they had seen, though, is put the barriers as real barriers, because that would have been interesting to see how they got on if they'd hit the tree or something like that, because at the moment they're obviously going through the trees and the barriers. It would have been interesting to see how they got on if they'd actually gone and made contact with the trees.
You know, I think if that were the case, I think we would have been done with this broadcast about 5 minutes ago, James. I'll be honest with you. I don't think anyone would have found the end of lap 1. Because you have moments like that where Pope just hits the barrier and it's a very bad time. I want to point out something that I read on Discord earlier. I was trying to remember this. This is from Santiago Dancourt, which is one of our drivers at DNF. It said, I started practicing Targa Florio back in GP Legends days in 1998. In 2010, I spent 5 hours a day learning the track because I love it. And after 14 years of practicing, I feel I know every corner in detail, but there's always space for a mistake. This was when the drivers were trying to discuss figuring out what setup to run for their cars. And they were discussing different things. Santiago posted that in the chat on Discord for the league.
If you haven't practiced, you are in trouble. I don't think you can come to a circuit like Targa Florio and expect to make it all the way through without any problems, right? It's like me going down Nords for the first time and driving it. I know by the time I get down the hill after the start-finish line where I go left and then I drop down, as soon as I hit the fast right-hander and not break up the graffiti on the floor before I go into the glitch left and then the right, I'm going to be in trouble. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to take it any longer, you are going to be dead, in theory. And this is what these guys have got to contend with at this very difficult circuit.
Yeah, and there's the question in my head of what is the better option to do? What is it that you need to do? Because think about it with Rally. With Rally, they don't necessarily memorize every line of the track. They have a co-driver that is reading out pace notes, 5 left, 4 right, sharp, tight, whatever they even say. I don't know what to tell you. I am not a Rally driver myself, but this is a good little blend of that, of seeing the drivers really just, it's a little bit about wits. It's a little bit about just using your brain and driving. That's where things for me get interesting. There is that little bit of trying to keep it together and just knowing what you're doing. You don't need to memorize the track to go flat out. You need to practice. You need to put in time, and you need to be somewhat vaguely familiar with where you're at. But I don't think you have to know every corner in detail. I think you just need to be very quick on your feet.
Maybe. We did just see. Yeah, and then he goes in and joins into somebody's house there. I wonder if they've got to pay insurance as he goes and terminates the corner of the house, and wonder or not he'll have to pay for the rebuild. We think it was Dan Herlock in that 87 machine. No. Stacey, answer to your questions, not all of them were fitted with seatbelts. And if you have a 64 sports car and it comes without a seatbelt, I will tell you now, you are not obligated to go and fit one. So just to let you know, whoa! Who was that up on two wheels? That was Herlock up on two wheels again then, as he'd gone and taken too much of the barrier or the hill on the left-hand side and put himself up there. Dan Herlock, well, having a good old time here.
I think good old time is relative.
I don't know what to say, to be honest. I would be loving driving around here. I think, though, I'd rather do this at Sunday speed. You know, get me gran in the 64, in the Daytona and, you know, just poodle around with her. I don't think I'd want to be hurtling around at whatever their speed upwards of what they're doing of 120 mile an hour and being able to get around it. We've already seen Herlock go into a house. I bet the insurance on this track run would have been absolutely extortionate. You know, I think this is a great circuit. It's, for me, is way too long to be racing, right? It would, I think I would be mentally drained to try and go around here. But I think a nice little poodly run in a Daytona, you know, or my Corvette Stingray there with JT Tammy. Got me gran in the car, my picnic basket with me red wine and me little bits of, you know, me grapes and me soft cheese and all that. I think that would be more how I'd want to take this circuit, because I'd probably have to stop for food as Dan Herlock is going off into the farmer's field. There is no corn in there, Dan. You cannot be eating it on the racetrack.
You know, I will say I think I prefer a track like this, though, as opposed to, say, 2 hours around Qatar. If you think of the WSB Modern.
Yeah, no, I think Qatar would also drive me crazy as well. It's just... I think this, Smith does literally, his back end just catches the wall there. He's very close here. He's looking a bit raggedy, Mr. Smith, as he's still got Funk and De Bruin right behind him there. Have we got the leader going through Colisano yet? Are we that far around on this circuit? That would be the question.
The leader for me is actually coming up to Contrada Garato. So the leader is nearing Campo Felice and the start of the
So right near the end, yeah, right near the end.
We're almost through the first lap, James. Almost through the first lap here.
Man. If we're on lap 2, though, I'm a little bit worried of where this is going to be. I don't think we're going to get the 3 laps. I think it's going to go and do the 2 laps. It's supposed to be a 3-lap race, right? But if it's registered that we've already done 2, the check flag's going to be out.
Yeah, because it's registering John Ullian is on lap 2, which, to point out the pace difference here, you've got Becky Ely, who is our overall race leader right now, who is coming out of Campo Felice here, which is where you see on screen for a position update and a field spread here. John Ullian is just now in Colisano. That is how spread out this field is getting across this 45-minute track.
Yeah, we can see Becky there as well, doing a great job in that Lotus. Geez, you crash it, you could lose your life back then. Yes, definitely, and the 66 Le Mans film does dedicate that as well. If you have a look back at that one, they literally did crash and you were dead. Also, the new Ferrari film also does diplomat it as well in the Ferrari open top. A guy crashed at Ferrari's test circuit, come flying out like an absolute ragdoll and was dead not long after he hit the ground. So yeah, back then you had to have testicles of steel and some big cojones to basically get into the cars without seatbelts. So they were, definitely a different breed, mentally, physically, but probably a little bit psychotic all at the same time. So unbelievable.
Well, the thing is, back then, they didn't have all of the science advances that we have now, and where we understand crash physics and crumple zones and how to design safer cars and mitigate all that risk. Back then, they genuinely thought it was safer if they were falling out of the car. They genuinely believed that if they were in an incident, it was safer for them to be thrown from the car. They had a better chance of surviving than they did if they stayed in the car, which is why a lot of them didn't wear seatbelts. It's the same thing that happened, with NASCAR in the early 2000s with the invention of the Hans device. A lot of the drivers thought it was more dangerous to wear the Hans than it was to, not have it.
Oh, they're in the trees. Not entirely sure who that was, but Monet and Mountjoy are still continually fighting here. If you Google Ken Mills was the main driver in the Le Mans 66. And you can Google him. He died on the test track testing out the Ford F40. So Alexander here, unfortunately taken a little bit, probably gone off the side of the circuit as everybody else has done. Down the hill he goes, comes up the other side, misses the safety barrier, misses the trees, and carry on his way. So, Sky Pope unfortunately also doing another little bit of an oopsie as he goes over the side and rolls it down the hill. So in hindsight, if this was real life about now, Stacey, Sky Pope probably wouldn't be back tomorrow.
I was going to say, are we going to call that a little oopsies? That looked a lot bigger than a little oopsie.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we're in sim, right? So he can just carry on. But back then, that was game over. Possibly even, not waking up at all the following morning or even remotely after the incident. I think this is the thing. Don't get me wrong, the safety improvements are great, right, that we've got now in the modern series. And, I think at the same time, as you can see, Lane and Schultz battling it out for third here, going to be going side by side. Currently is Lane in that Shelby Daytona against the Ferrari 250 GTO as they battle their way on the run now. So let's see how they get on here. This is going across. I believe we're up by the start-finish line.
We are getting
the we've got to be on the Bureau-Formello straight, right? The long straight, yeah. So we are up there as these guys are running down now. They're going to come in near what they've called SS113 on the track map I'm looking at before they go round to the start-finish straight again, which we think is only lap 2, but it could be the final lap of the race. It's not quite sure how it's working out. We will try and keep you posted.
Yeah, but this is what we talked about with the Bufanello straight, of the slipstream helping out and making things interesting. Becky Ely here is, again, just running away. The gap right now for Becky Ely is about 30 seconds back to Oliver Day, as I see it. And there, Becky Ely has officially hit the start-finish straight and started the next lap here, as we see Oliver Day and Dan Kirby through. Becky Ely having to pit,
going to be every lap. Yeah, every lap, wasn't she, about her being in the pits?
Yep. She's got to pull enough of a gap.
Day and Kirby running side by side now. You can see Dan Kirby in the Alfa Romeo Giulia, Oliver Day in the Porsche 904. And that is the 33 machine of Day as they're coming round by the start-finish line as well. Becky Ely is out and retakes the first place now. So it's about 12 to 13 seconds here. Brad, we knew this was going to be a thing with the Lotus, though, didn't we, on the every lap kind of situation?
Yeah, we were expecting the Lotus and the Alpine to have to stop every single lap, and the Alfa and Porsche will have to make at least one stop for fuel. I would say probably the end of this lap, end of lap 2 here. We see Busenik is in the pits there in the Porsche 904. So they may be just biting the bullet now, pitting now, getting enough fuel, and then just watch it through to the end. Becky Ely, though, has so much pace that even with having to stop every lap, she's got so much pace in that Lotus that I don't think it makes a difference for her. I think she can just hit and then take off and run and be just fine.
Yeah, Kim D in the YouTube chat there. It would be too bad, really, if the race ends after 2 laps instead of 3. Well, we're going to find that out, I think. Can we pick up on John Uyan and find out where he is? Because that would probably give us a better idea if he's near the end of the lap, to find out if he's going to go over the line. And if all of a sudden it goes to lap 3, then we know we're in a definitive doom there, right? Because it's going to be ending, well, this lap, I suppose, technically.
Yeah, I don't know. John Uyan coming out of the back of the straight here, and there's a little bit more of the twisty bits before John Uyan will hit the start-finish line here, out of the end of the Bucanello straight. And
yeah, I think it's up through Campo Felice, isn't he?
Yeah, he's past it. He's actually should be hitting the start-finish straight any second now.
Well, we're going to find out from John Uyan what the situation with you. Stacey there, Scar Pope yeeted his car. He definitely did. Did some wonderful barrel rolls, and I'm sure there's a very expensive car sat down the hill about now. Carl Vesser has unfortunately had a DNF here. He is not the only one with a DNF. So Carl Vesser pitting in there as well. Alfredo Cabrera, Oliver Newman, there's some DNFs as well. So unfortunately for them guys.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for him too. Like, think about how you would feel as a driver if you DNF right now after 45 minutes of running just one lap in. I mean, it'd be painful. It would be unfortunate, painful, and frustrating. I would not want to be a driver in that situation.
No, I definitely don't think you would want to be anything in this situation. I think that's the problem, isn't it? When you're on such a big old track and you've got to try and work it out, and you've got all of this stuff going on inside of it, it's going to make it somewhat blinking impossible to try and make sure that this is all 100%, isn't it? It is a very difficult racetrack to know and to remember.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is that this track goes twofold. You've got to remember it, but you've got to be able to think on your feet. You've got to have a vague idea of the stretches. For me, this feels very much like a rallycross course where, typically you would think you would run this town-to-town, sector-to-sector. And instead they've decided to just run the whole thing start to finish. You don't need to memorize it all, but you best be able to react quickly. And I think there was a good part in that post by Santiago Dancourt where he said, sometimes it's better if you're not sure to just have a little bit extra gear and a little bit extra room and be prepared to react if you just don't know where you're at.
Yeah, we can see the timing screen has changed to lap 3 of 3 here. A little bit worried, but we will hopefully, we're going to be one lap finished. I think when John Uyan goes over to lap 2, that will be the end of the race, and it's going to have,
Well, I think what's going to get confusing with it is John Uyan is in the middle of the pack, technically. He's technically, if we look at the actual track where he's at, he's in that 20th place overall. So he'll cross the line, everyone behind him will finish, but then you have Becky Ely down to like P20 that's in front of him that will have to run another lap. Because they will technically just be starting their lap 3. Or is the game going to score them all a lap down? I'm not sure where that's going to land, and unfortunately I don't think we have a good chance to have a chat with admin to figure out what's going on. Because I believe the ones we asked are also currently on the track running.
Yeah. Well, just start the entire race over. Stacey? No.
I'd be okay with that. Oh, who is that facing the wrong way? Somebody having a bad day.
We'll have to try and figure out who that was there. One lap down after a leader crosses the finish line. Yeah, but it's going to jiggle everybody around. So I'm going to be interested to see how this one works. Again, yeah, so we're trying to just pick up. Pick up who has had this little bit of a ta-ta-ta faced the wrong way on the racetrack. So I think that's Jason Whitehead has just had a little bit of his own drama as these guys now. Technically, Becky Ely is on the run through the twisty bits, right the way down before we get to the bottom end of the circuit here as well. So let's see if we have got this replay. We have. So there we go. Through the barriers. Oh man.
So the barriers will let you drive out to in, but they block you in to out. And also, that car was there.
And then poor people.
Yeah.
Still going through, and he's. Yeah, I think we'll put that one on George or Ross. Dan Herlock is out at the moment as well. That's going down to the long line of DNFs here. So unfortunately, we've lost quite a few drivers who have DNF. You can see it's got Carl Vesser, Alfredo Cabrera, Peter Meyer, Santiago Diancourt and Oliver Newman. They're all out as Monet goes into the pits, up the ramp. And then off they go. Stacey works for me. Could Uyan sit out a lap and then rejoin in the same spot around the next lap? Probably. Theoretically, yes. I'm going to say this in a theoretical way. Theoretically, yes, he could. But how the barnstorming hell are we going to get a message to John Uyan to go and sit himself out? Oh, we lost Brad as well. All right, we are going to go. I think Brad is on his way to go and do a bit of an investigation into why and how and what the outcome and the situation will be here. So we'll see what happens as Wood and Tamanari are 1.9 seconds back. Brad is back, I believe. Brad? Is he back? Brad?
Hello, I am. Sorry, I was trying to jump up and figure out the laps fiasco. I was reported by the drivers. They're showing they're on lap 2.
Oh.
So, I don't know. We just add to the mystery, James. Add to the mystery that is this beautiful track of Targa Florio.
Maybe we'll get Paul to give his PC a little, I don't know, a little Irish hammer. It'll be a surprise for us all then, says Kim. Yes, it will be. It's going to be a shock for all of us.
And we'll let it go. We'll see what happens. I'm sure the drivers will let us know when they are done. I'm sure Ross will come down and let us know when he is done, and then we can go from there.
Well, this is a new one for us here, Brad, and a new one, everything that we're going to find out. So, Kim D, I'm up for a surprise if you are, my dear. So, let's see. I've called you. Yeah, I'm sure I'm right. But there we go. How would you come into Targa Florio, Brad? How would you sit back and think, how am I going to attack this circuit?
Well, James, first, I respect you for thinking that I would, because I am not that brave. I will be honest with you.
Have I disrespected you by saying that you think, Brad?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not that at all. But if I was given a lap around Targa Florio in any of these cars and told, hey, here you go hit a lap, have fun, see what happens. Give me the Porsche 904 GTS, and I'm probably going to make it a nice little Sunday drive for the first lap. Just nice, relax, and enjoy myself. And then the second lap, it's that dialing it back 10%. I know what I can drive, dial it back 5% so you survive the lap, because it seems like for here, as long as you're surviving, it makes it more possible for you to score points. Of course, we do have several DNFs out already, so for anyone who has just naturally gained places from that, it's a good place to be because you've already gained positions. So this is, again, a unique track. It's like rally, but you don't have a co-driver in your ear telling you, the turn's coming up ahead. So I think for all the drivers, it's knowing your skill level and pull it back 5%, 10%, whatever it is that makes you comfortable on this lap. Because this is a game of endurance, not necessarily a game of setting a single fastest lap.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to. It would be probably a good 20 lap practice for me, where you just start getting quicker and quicker as you go on. This is the battle. We believe that's Ross and Scar Pope that are Smith in the 00. I think Pope is well out of position. I don't think this is a battle on track. I've got to be funny, because Ross. No, I don't think there can't be a battle. I think this is just lost there as well. So, yeah. But I think you are right. I think generally you would just go and try and fight for what you got, and it'd be a little bit quicker and quicker and quicker each lap. That was a battle for position, but you can see the class positions are not showing that they're in the same class. They're not. It is a natural battle for position, but it's not a class battle. So Smith and Pope there with De Bruin still behind in that yellow.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those things where people get two things mixed up. One, their own skill level. You have to truly know yourself as a driver and know where your skill level lays in. You've got to know if you have the skill to take on a track like Targa Florio, or what you need to do to take on Targa Florio. You've got to be very realistic with yourself. I had this conversation with another league the other day where everyone thinks they're the next William Byron in oval racing. They're the next, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Dale Sr., whatever your favorite NASCAR driver is in oval racing. Everybody comes in and carries that chip on their shoulder of, I'm the best oval racer ever. No, you're not. Everyone's came in thinking they're the best at whatever class they're racing, whatever their primary class is. You're probably not, and you have to be realistic with yourself. For all these drivers, Targa Florio is probably not going to be their best track, and that is fine because it's so unique. It's not going to stick to everyone. Now, Santiago Dancourt, I'm giving you all of the credit in the world for your 20-plus years of driving this track. Unfortunately, Santiago Dancourt has DNF'd, but it goes to show that even with tons of practice on this track, you're not guaranteed to have a perfect lap, a perfect run. So you've got to be realistic with that. You are not going to have a perfect run through. The second is that people mix up the true meaning of endurance racing sometimes. Endurance racing is not necessarily about being the fastest. It's about being the most consistent and the most in tune with your own car and knowing what you've got to do to make it to the end of that race. What's your tires? What's your fuel? How's your car going to react? What is it that your car is good at? What is it that your car is bad at? How do you mitigate those? Mix those two things together, and that is, I think, who comes out on top of Targa Florio. And right now, it's Becky Ely by a huge margin.
Yeah, it is. I think that's the thing at the moment. By about 20, I've got it about 25 seconds, give or take, but I think that's a rough estimate here as we look at Sellers and Schultz here, doing a wonderful job just being able to keep these wonderful cars on the racetrack. Is a bit of a mission in its own right.
Yeah, it's that's part of the fun that kind of drew me to the historic series. Of course, I am naturally more of a modern car person, given just my age and my preferences. But these historic cars are such a challenge, and I like seeing drivers kind of get pushed through and seeing people who can really tune in to the challenges of the historic cars switch through. And on a track like this, where it is truly a road course and just public roads through, you've got to be in tune and know what you're doing here as we head through Catavolturo, if I am pronouncing that correct. Catavolturo is where we are going through on the track map here and just keeping things moving. We're halfway through lap 2 of what should be 3 laps.
Yeah, it should be, and I think we are almost there. Yeah, I think you are right about Catavolturo there. And then they're going to be out of that run, aren't they? Up into Flavio Polizza. So, yeah, they're still in sector 2 currently at the moment. So, yeah. Kim's got it right. I'll treat it like a Sunday drive in the countryside.
I mean, you said it earlier. Pack a little picnic basket. No. Lane in the wall, James. The track is starting to bite back as I think drivers are starting to really wear down. They've been driving well over an hour at this point, plus however many warm-up laps, practice laps they put in before.
He did that. He punched it quite hard on that rear end. And then gets a big old slide on coming out of that section as well. You can see it here. He's going to punch it on the right rear of his car. And then 75 machine does make a big old piece of contact there as well. Michael, I'm hoping there's been no spectator fatalities. Well, to be honest with you, there's probably been a couple here. As well as if this was real life, a few driver ones, Mika.
Yeah, this has been it's been a bad day to be standing on the side of the track, I will be honest. Getting a replay here, I believe this is De Bruin that is having a moment there battling out with Smith. So we'll see as he goes through. Quick little replay here from Paul, trying to catch all the action we can across this long circuit here. And he's trying to peek up the inside, and I just think he didn't have the grip to make it stick.
Yeah, just not enough. I think Smith probably didn't help himself by hitting into the wall. So De Bruin could have cleared him, but I think De Bruin gave him a lot more respectful room than probably what he needed, I think. That's the thing for me. I think if De Bruin had gone at it as soon as he come out, he might have got the position. But I suppose if he does get past Mr. Smith and he ends up getting the overtake done, he's got a long old way until he gets to the next one. So maybe he just likes driving around with Ross. Him and Ross having a nice little chin wag on the way through, and you know. So there we go. Oh, is that Neka Shirogov? The Silver car. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Was it Gardner? Oh, Neka Shirogov is off, but Gardner looked like he was the one that hit the wall. Oh, where are you going? Wherever you're going, you ain't gonna be there very quick either. So we have a look at these guys on the replay now. You can see this is what happens to Neka Shirogov coming out. Gardner punched the wall on the rear there as well, Brad, didn't he?
Yeah, and it looks like a case of just missing your braking point. And again, that's the challenge of a track this long and this unique, is you've really got to be heads up and eyes forward and heads up the whole time. And if you get in a battle and you're looking behind you and you're not in tune, it catches you off guard there. So Neka Shirogov, I can't say that name. Neka Shirogov. There we go. Apologies to you, my friend. But you can see just the unique challenges of this track continuing to come out as we go. And tires are going to become a challenge by the end.
Yeah, De Bruin has got himself up to something here as well. He's got him up to what looked like a tree. He's either hit a barrier or hit a tree or something. Yeah, poor old Wouter De Bruin not having a good time. However, I do love the fact this car's yellow. Amazing.
Slide, boop.
Yeah, goes and boots the barrier, doesn't he? Unfortunately for Wouter De Bruin.
And Oh, goes wide there. And yeah, there you go. It goes to show just how one small error can cost you a position, and now he's got to fight to move back forward.
And that's not always going to be easy, is it? You know, I think that's the thing when we're talking about these. It's not always easy for them to be able to fight back the positions either. We'll try and bring you the overalls on the left-hand side so we can have a look, at least at one continuous timing tower. So we'll be able to say we've got De Bruyne is in a battle, but unfortunately it's not for a class battle. It is for the overall positions. We'll bring them up to see where De Bruyne is at this moment in time. But I think for De Bruyne, not an ideal scenario. He's got to try and make his way going forward. And De Bruyne has got Gardner and Meka Shirogov behind 19th, Tamanari in there as well. So yeah, John Ian still not leading. Becky Ely is still leading the race.
Yeah, Becky Ely is just, continuing to run away. And my question is, can anyone catch Becky Ely at this point? Because the gap is 30 seconds as I see it. 27 seconds possibly. But it's a big gap. And there's just, the question is who catches? It's, if anyone. I almost don't know if anyone does.
No. I think these guys being able to work their way around this circuit, just completing this circuit is a good thing, right? We've got Becky Ely coming up now. So Becky Ely should be coming up near Scalato, I think, before she goes on the run again. So it's a good old mix for us as well here, Brad, trying to work this out.
Yeah, it's, you know how your teacher told you in school, remember your math because you're going to use it again, and everybody laughs and says, I won't use that. You know, I'm doing a lot of mental gymnastics with numbers in my head right now. So to all my math teachers in school, thank you very much for giving me the ability to do mental maths and subtractions very quickly. Because it's paying off right now.
While you're doing that, I'm just trying to work out where we are. I think that's the thing. It's such a long circuit. It's very tough at time. As Scar Pope, again, unfortunately, is he going to make it down? He avoids the barrier, kills some spectators, and then comes back on track for good off. So Scar Pope getting it all going wrong there. As Eric Monet as well, also having another little bit of an issue. He's off the side of the circuit as well. He's going to come back up, go straight across the track again. Here's Eric Monet. Not an ideal scenario for him.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I believe the drivers are about to come up to the point of Borgo Eras as it goes. So we are about 2/3 of the way through the circuit here. Becky Ely is. As we watch this battle here with Barker and Sellers that is continuing to develop. This battle has been fun, even though it's not for class. It goes to show, you know, we talked about it before, the difference in pace between the Division 1-2 cars and the Division 3 cars. Those Division 3 cars are heavier and they're really struggling at certain points of the track.
Yeah, they definitely are. And to be honest, I don't think it really matters what car you're in. I've got to be honest. I think I'm an advocate at the moment of this race circuit does not matter what car you're in. I think it's just how you drive it. I think that's the thing. That Barker and Sellers here, this race circuit ain't going to care whether you're in an Alfa Giulia or whether you're in a Shelby Daytona. What it is going to care about is how your ability is going to get that car around this racetrack successfully. And I think some of the drivers need to look at themselves and go, okay, have I practiced enough? Probably not, because I'm not being rude. I wouldn't want to drive 37 minutes around one lap for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 laps, you know, whatever. I don't even think I've got the time to be able to go and do that. So where would you get the practice in, Brad, if you can't go and make 37-minute lap time?
Well, I think part of it too is that you kind of have to buckle down and put in that 37-minute lap at first, and you've got to learn the track, and then from there, you know, it's okay, what are my problem sectors, and then go work on that. Go work on those areas of the track. You don't necessarily need to do 37 minutes lap after lap after lap after lap, because by that time, whatever you learned in the first sector, you're going to completely forget by the time you're a third of the way through the middle sector, because it's such a long lap. So the idea is run it through, and if there's a sector where you're like, all right, I really want to make sure I know this is going to be a key problem area for me, you start working on that. It's the same way, that a lot of drivers learn the Nürburgring. They run that 10-minute lap, and then they say, okay, the run down the hill was a problem for me. Let's go run that mini sector through and memorize that area and then keep moving. So I think that's the ideal way, because if you're just running 37-minute laps, lap after lap after lap, you're not doing efficient practicing. You're literally just beating your head against a wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah. It's a definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing over again and hoping for a different result.
Which, granted, running this track, and back in the day especially, running this track is a little bit of insanity required, but memorizing and perfecting this track is another thing. And I do think if you're a driver, you need to have some driving aids with you. It's something you would see in real life too. Have a track map down to your side that you can look down and say, okay, this is where I'm at on circuit, this is where I'm at. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a live timing overlay, but even just having that physical map where you can look down and reference and say, okay, this is kind of what I'm coming up to, is important. And if you are a driver who struggles learning tracks, whether it's something simple or it's something hard, I implore you, grab your phone, grab an iPad, grab another tablet, grab your second monitor, whatever it may be, and put a track map up. So when you're driving your track, you can reference over to that track map and learn it. It genuinely helps you learn. I tell you that from experience, because that is how I learned Barcelona before I ran an 8-hour endurance race. I sat and I practiced, and then I had that physical track map. I printed it out on a sheet of paper and set it down beside me where I could look over and reference that track map and just go, okay, this is what I'm driving, this is where I'm at. And I had little notes like, take this corner this gear, take this corner this gear, you want to be this speed through, watch out for the outside curb here. It's just a matter of, that's the best way to learn. And this is that, but on a much, much larger scale.
Yeah, I think it is. I think depending on what you use, obviously, to drive with, right? Where there's lots of driver overlays, there's lots of driver aids that they can use to give them an overlay. So if you don't have a printer, because I know not many people do have printers anymore, you can actually get an overlay to basically bring you up a track map, and it will tell you where they are or what corners you've got coming up. So Rip Top Lane is what's just been said by our pit roving reporter, Mr. Reese. So, have we missed something there?
I'm trying to look. We've missed something. I just can't tell you specifically what.
No, Tom Lane is unfortunately DNF'd out of the race there. So, maybe he's just decided that enough was enough and these guys are on their run up. I think she's actually coming into Scalato about now for Becky Ely.
Let's see here.
Oh, there's a mountain or a hill. Over he goes, 4 wheels off the ground. I'd need a racing line in order to do this race. I think, to be fair,
Tom Lane with a big moment there.
Yeah, so Tom Lane had a moment. And he's just gone round and up into the wall. The racing line's good. Depends if it's a progressive or a static racing line. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's whether or not it's a static or progressive. And I know Formula One do and F1 23, they do a great job on their racing line. It's a progressive line that basically will show you where you can, as you get quicker, ready to accelerate. Whereas games like iRacing and others are static, which means they don't change. They just give you an ideal optimum of where you should brake. I think the racing line is good to help learn a circuit, but I wouldn't stick by it all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's a tool to learn. You're not meant to use it because it shows you an ideal line, but it's going to be conservative. It's going to be conservative because it's going to want you to be kind of consistent through, and everybody's going to react to that racing line slightly different. So racing lines are good for general knowledge, but when you start getting into the nitty-gritty and you start getting into the, I really want to learn, I want to go faster, I want to be, as efficient, as quick as I can, you have to kind of give the racing line away, because you're going to start learning alternate lines in different ways that the racing line may not suggest that will work for you. And again, prime example is Barcelona, Spain. In an F1 car, there are sections of the track where the racing line tells you need to cut in early, and really you need to wait and take a late apex. And if you follow the racing line, you can lose several seconds a lap on that. You're going to be very consistent, but you're not going to be the fastest you can be. So racing lines are ideal for a lot of things, and learning is one of them. But I will also say, a track like this, it probably doesn't hurt to have something that can help you go through. So racing line, not the worst idea ever.
Yeah, definitely not. We've got Oliver Newman in YouTube chat. He said, I had a wheel disconnect. For Oliver Newman there as well. So unfortunately for Oliver Newman, that puts Ross Smith 6th in Div 3. We'll try and bring you up the overalls on the left-hand side. It is completely irrelevant at the moment because it is not working correctly, but we can get the overalls on the left, because that will give us a better idea as to where everybody else is. You can see it's going to be Edie, Dolga and Angelitas and Goodlife. That would probably be the 3 leaders. But mixing it up, Edie, Kirby, Dave, Dolgren, Junt, Sellers, Barker, Suvic, Schultz is your top 10. Then you've got Castro, Busnik, Funk, Pope, Gardner, Smith, and all throughout the list. You see Goodlife and Mountjoy there as well. So, yeah, very difficult, I think, to determine what's going to be best for you and your driving ability. I think that's the thing, Brad. That's what they've got to look at here, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that was kind of what I mentioned earlier, is a lot of this track to me is knowing yourself as a driver. It's knowing what you're good at, what you're bad at, and what's going to work for you. Because if you don't know that, then this track is just going to smack you around. You've got to know, am I good at these twisty bits? Am I good at, the chicanes and, the switchbacks? Is it going to be a problem for me there? Because this track is just, it literally winds through the mountains of Sicily. Like, there's not much you can say to it, and every sector is slightly different to the other, and every mini sector is slightly different to the next. So it's not like you can learn one general rule on this track. You've got to be a sim racer that is very comfortable sim racing to jump on Targa Florio and go through. It's the same thing with, like, if you go to the Isle of Man and you try to sim race on the Isle of Man, you have to be very comfortable in reacting and quick reacting and have a general idea of that track to jump on it. But again, that's even shorter than this track.
Yeah. I think with longer circuits like these, it does really mentally drain you as a driver. I think that's the thing. They've got to be prepared for what they're going to be facing, right? Good evening, Phil, across the pond there. Thank you so much for joining us, buddy. Hope you are well. They've got to be more mentally capable than, I suppose, physically capable, wouldn't it? Because driving a circuit like this, 2 things would happen in my brain. 1, I'd think about what I was having for dinner. 2, I'd probably think about what job my wife's added to my list for me for tomorrow morning. I'd go off on a tangent somewhere. I don't think my attention level could quite handle driving this circuit without making a mistake.
See, and that's the thing for me too. It's one of those that I don't know that this track is physically demanding in sim racing as, say, other tracks maybe, but it definitely is mental, because it is, you've got to be very tuned in. And we've seen plenty of drivers that, one little mental moment and it's an off. Or, for a lot of these drivers, it could literally be some sort of small distraction, such as, their corgi jumps in their lap, or, their cat decides to attack their brake pedal, whatever it may be. And that one little distraction can cost you significant time on this track. And if you look at how spread out the field is right now, I mean, one small distraction, and you think about how bad it could be. Schultz there goes deep, and Busink is trying to push through and gets the move done. But, was that a small distraction? Was that a case of, oh, I've got to sneeze right now in the middle of the corner, and then I drop a position, and now I've got to fight for 10 minutes to make it back up?
Yeah, or, did he think about what he was going to do for dinner? But that's a question, isn't it? That sometimes happens, and as you can see the overtake on your screen now, as they do go side by side, Busink does make it through, so it's done a job, and he'll get, I'm sure, on his way there. And whether or not they're going to be going backwards and forwards with each other. I think, would you need a partner, Brad, when racing this? Because chasing somebody and following somebody is completely different, right? As we can see, I think Becky Ely is coming up at the fellow straight. She's near the start of lap 3. So this is where we're going to determine what's going to happen here when John Uyan gets over that point as well. Would you need to drive with a partner, or do you think you can handle driving this circuit on your own?
I think it depends on if you care about being the fastest or just surviving. If you want to be the fastest and you want to absolutely dominate, I think you're going to need a second person with you that can talk you through, that can kind of help you keep track of where you are on track, have the track map up, give you ideas of what's coming up, and just kind of keep things going, because that will help you stay mentally engaged and take a little bit of the mental load off. Versus if you aren't concerned about an absolute total domination win and you are really, really just looking at running it, you could get away with doing this track yourself and tuning back that 5%, 10% on pace like I talked about earlier. And oh boy, what is happening here? Long straightaway here.
Is that Bradley Sellers? What has Dan been up to? As we see Dan Hurlock getting himself into a little bit of a incident, shall we say? Oh, he's already there. There's 2 already there. There's a black one on his side. It's the black liveried machine. We had this guy earlier on. Right, we're going to have a look and see who that was laying on the side there of their car. He was just in that all black liveried machine. For the life of me, I cannot remember who was in that all black livery machine, unfortunately. So we'll just try and see if we can find that. There it is now. That's good. Is that Good Life? No, Good Life's 127. Is that Pullen on its roof?
Yeah, that is Pullen. Is this? Are they still sitting there? Yeah. What is happening? Because there's the 51
there's 51s
going.
in the wall.
What is happening?
He can't turn the car, can he? Does he need pushing over?
Is this camaraderie here? Is he trying to help flip him, or is he going to leave him? Oh, left him! No! Pullen!
Oh, poor old Pullen stuck on the side of his roof. He got one little bump there, and then basically was given up. Oh!
What? Are they just missed? What is happening there? Like, why is nobody hitting that through? Oh,
they're trying, but they can't get him
Jason.
over. What are they supposed to do?
I'm just confused why everyone is continuing to miss that corner.
Well, there's a car there. Just hashtag free Pullen.
Oh, Pullen, come on. You can work it loose. You can rock it. Come on, buddy. You've got this.
Or is he shaking in his sim rig to try and turn the car over?
I don't know what he's doing here. He's doing something. He's trying to make it work. Who is coming up to him next, if anyone? I think he's all in a league of his own right now.
Poor old Pullen Cam is Pullen canned. Is he in 36?
He's in 34th. Adam Gray is about 5 minutes away. Oh, he DNFs out. That's his race over. Oh, so he lost Pullen, Lane, Vessa, Cabrera, Meyer, Dancourt, Newman. But, man, come on, Pullen. You could have saved that. He could have pulled it. Pullen could have
I don't know.
Bowders, Monet. What is happening here, James? Do you know?
No, I'm about to see, mate. I am just about to see. See there, he comes out. Is he going to be doing what everybody else is going to be doing? And just sliding off the side of the circuit in that 92 machine. There he goes, round. Oh.
Ouch.
Yeah. But to be fair, if he's made it this long and that was his first spin for Monet and Bowders, then not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a good fact that if you've gone this far and this is the first problem you're having, you're probably not doing too bad, honestly. Here is Wood and Lalonde coming across, and then looks like Becky Ely has started on lap 3 officially on her side. John Uyan still not across the line for what might be the third lap. Still waiting to see how timing fixes itself.
Yeah, we're going to see if it does there. And whether or not it fixes it, we'll pick up on John Uyan, I'm sure. And we'll be able to find out what the situation will be. We'll go over there. John, there is John.
So,
Are we on?
John Uyan across. It looks like we are starting lap 3 officially.
But even though Becky Ely's on lap 3.
Yes, so, but it's saying John Uyan is still in the lead. Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
I don't know exactly what's happening.
No, we'll try and work this one out, guys, here as we continue to figure out with the whole timing tower and software incident with John Uyan there. So let's just keep going here as these guys continue to fight it out here as well. And we've got Schultz and Busnik, these guys battling out there. Busnik half of 3 seconds behind as he's now trying to chase him down. So great job from these as these continue to fight on. Now Busnik sitting down in 9th place. He's on the run down from the start-finish line down into third and contra Spinazza.
Yeah, and as we run here, continue through Schultz, Busnik, who can come out ahead? What is the plan for these two? It's a Ferrari versus a Porsche. And we are in Sicily, so it is, of course, the home of a Forza Ferrari. We want to keep things moving
Get the
here.
flags
You see
up.
Ferrari all over the track. You'll see Ferrari everywhere written down. I really want Ferrari to win.
Check the flags out. So there we go. We'll have to see what goes on. Becky Ely is still running and is still doing a great job. Apparently John Uyan has finished the race. How is that everybody going to be behind John Uyan? I think this is the thing we're going to find out, right? Because John Uyan at the moment was down in 20th, wasn't he, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, he was down.
He was.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, so we've got Wood, Lalonde, Tammy, Angelinas, Brian Hall, Jerry Chen, John Meyer, Dan Herlock, Mountjoy. Are they all going to be then finishing behind him? So let's see what happens as we continue this on. Becky Ely is on the final lap of the race on the run down now into Contrada Spinazza. Spinasantis. Is that right? Yeah, must be. As these guys are continually to race on. Becky Ely doing a great job. She's got about another 3/4 of the lap remaining. I say that as if it's just 6 turns. It's not. It's probably another 400 and probably about another 25 to 35 minutes. So there you go. Looks like John starting from the pits caused him to add a lap. So everyone he passed has just had their race ended.
Oh. I hope that is not what happened. Oh, what?
So
I
don't really know. I suppose the question would be, why did he stay in? That would be the first point of it, would be, why did he stay in? Nothing we can do about it at this point. So looks like Johnson closer to added laps. So everyone he passed has just had their race ended. So that was basically everybody we discussed earlier on. right? So that would be everybody from, where was he, about 20th down. So give or take Tavanari, Wood, Lalonde. Say that. There's a couple of others in the pits.
Yeah.
In the pits. Should have restarted the race in the beginning. No.
I
Well,
don't.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But at the moment, that's put a lot of people in the pits. De Bruyn's in the pits, Wood's in the pits, but they could be normal pit stops because he was in 20th. So it could be Wood, Lalonde, Tammy, Angelinas, Hall, Chen, Meyer. I don't know. It's a bit of a technical issue. Ross is in the booth actually with us. Ross, tell us more what's happening here because we're all a little bit kerfuffled.
All right, so yeah, John Uyan basically ended up somehow missing the start of the race, so the call to grid. So he started from the pits, which you can do. However, this particular track has it's a weird kind of way of how it sets the start-finish line, so that way you don't have to go and do an entire reconnaissance lap, like an out lap, to start your lap. So because of that, and because John ended up starting on the pit road, it awarded him basically an extra lap because it thought that he was ahead of the field. And so as he came around, anyone he then, quote, lapped, he effectively finished their race as of lap 2.
So do we know who they were?
Well, mostly anyone who's not running right now. Like me, and I'm not exactly sure how this is going to be dealt with. George made a call over the radio before I hopped out and back in here to have the cars that were just driving around to start their third lap to go ahead and complete it. So I have no idea if that's going to end up being somehow utilized. I know that in Div 3, the Shelbys can't make 3 laps unless you absolutely fuel save to the point of you're just, doing a Sunday drive around here for all 3 of the laps. But we had to stop, and as soon as you stop for fuel, it holds your car. You can't do anything. So I have no clue what this is going to end up doing for the results of the race. But all the remaining cars that are still going around are still fighting for position right now.
Right. Okay.
So John Uyan is not in first.
Yeah, well, we worked that one out. We were just trying to work out that you're stuck there, De Bruyn's stuck there, Wood's stuck there, Pope is still in there. So there's quite a few of you, I think, isn't there? Because he got to, well, it looks like from 29, Mountjoy, Monet, Bowder's Good Life, are they still, they're still running, I think. Maybe they've avoided the pit lane. This is going to be an interesting one for you then to decipher at the end of this.
Yeah, well, it was certainly exciting.
It definitely was. Do we think the thing for John would have been pulling out? Would that have helped the situation?
It should have done, yeah, because then it would not have scored him ahead of everyone else. It's just, this is such a
Such a amazing track is what he was going to say, I believe.
It's such a unique track with the way that it's set up because of that outlap situation that we've never had that happen before. We've never been in that situation. It's just everyone's been on the grid. We've gone and never been a problem. But watch it all.
So where will John place? That's a question in YouTube chat. The question is, where is Uyan going to be played?
So he'll have his lap. The time will basically be adjusted so that way wherever he ended up finishing, that's where he is. So he'll probably be. He's definitely going to be back behind us, myself and Wouter, but I can't say for sure. Somewhere in the 20s, maybe.
All right, Ross. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go and move forward anyway, because we've still got people driving around here, regardless of people finished. How was it out there for Targa Florio? How was the race circuit itself? What did you do to get ready for this racetrack?
Well, what a lot of people did, you just have to run it, and there's just no other way to do it. And the track makers actually developed an interesting approach to it, where they broke up a lot of the track. So the course, the area actually gets used for rally events. So there will be different segments of this course where you'll have different rally stages that run through here. So they've included those, and they've actually broken it up roughly by sector, so that way you don't have to turn a whole lap, beat up your car or whatever, or spend a whole lot of time getting there to just really nail down a certain sector, which is great for like sectors 2 and 3, because obviously those take longer to get to, your car might not be as fresh. So you want to see what the maximum potential is to be able to hit all of those corners as you're diving down to those last 2 cities, and well, 3 cities actually, because Finello comes up at the end there, start finish line. But it's yeah, you can't learn every corner. You have to kind of chunk it. So you just learn segments, and you think, and everyone learns the same way, where it's like, yep, can't go that fast through that corner because I died, and so you just keep doing it again until you figure out, okay, that's where I can take this segment. I can take this segment flat out. This one, maybe not so much. And some things you forget. Sometimes your brain skips a minute, and you think you are where you aren't, and things happen.
Could I have made one request? Would you mind? My one request is could we have not made the trees and the people solid objects?
That would be a question for S. Victor and the Targa Florio team, the track makers. So this track actually is a pull from originally done for Grand Prix Legends, and is a huge ordeal. I mean, the whole course took, I think, over 10 years to put all together, and then do the conversion. So it's gone through some iterations too, because there were trees that used to be solid. Quite a few of them, and I don't know if it was a performance thing or why they ended up pulling some of that out, and they just kept them as non-collidable buildable objects. Same with people. Obviously no 3D people, because that was starting to eat up performance. But it's a wonderful job. It's incredible that they can put 40-kilometer courses in here, or sorry, 40-mile, 72-kilometer courses in here. And this is the short version.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting as well, the fact that the barriers will let you come back on through them, but it won't let you go off through them.
Correct, yeah, which is something I only recently discovered, and I don't remember that being in previous iterations, because I saw that on Tuesday night's MNRL race, as Brian Hall ended up kind of pulling a Tony Hawk and going over some walls, and then cut back in front of JT Tavy. It looked like something out of Dukes of Hazzard. It was just ridiculous. But yeah, it's something that's allowed for, so that way drivers can get back on.
Dahlgren's over. Oh, Magnus.
Oh,
Bro. Can we not get that replay from an onboard? Because I reckon seasickness would come in for Magnus Dahlgren if he's in VR there, as he has just barrel rolled his machine in that Ferrari 250. I think there was at least 6 or 7 in there. Rolls from Magnus Dahlgren.
oh.
So violent.
Oh, look at poor old Magnus.
That's all it
I
takes.
I hope nobody's in VR. Because that would be
He'll be out of his chair.
Man, he would have been losing his absolute marbles. He mounted the wall and then he just goes, wow. Oh my dearie me. Count that. If anybody's got an accurate count on how many times he's rolled, then let us know in YouTube chat, because that was unbelievable watching here. Well, Russ, are we then going into the end of this and taking these results almost with like the biggest pinch of salt we could possibly find out? Because until you guys work it out, we're not really ever going to know where anybody finished, are we?
I think as they stand right now is going to be fairly representative of where it is. Obviously, anyone who's about from 20th on back, they're not going to be able to do much with it at this point. But in front of that, I mean, it's still up for grabs. I can't believe Dahlgren's still going. He's going to have.
I don't know how that's working. Yeah, I don't know how that track's still remotely, that car is remotely moving. And to be honest, it does look like there was no, it's perfect, which is very bizarre, but Magnus... As there's more from Magnus Dahlgren there, as you can hear Brad in the background just screaming. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's got damage there. Mr. Reese, a glass of salt Well, okay, we'll take it with a glass rather than a big old pinch if that's what you prefer. So, yeah, Oliver Day there just clears Dahlgren and goes through for it. Did you have any major ta-ta-tas, Mr. Smith, while you were out there?
Up early on in the race, just as we were kind of bunched up with some of the Div 1-2s, there was a bit of a checkup, and I ended up getting too close to Alfredo and kind of boogered the back of his car a little bit, but nothing too bad. We all kind of kept moving, and it wasn't.
So you didn't take any unfortunate trips down the hill and off the other side and then up over the barrier? I didn't see any from you, to be fair.
No, that's. I mean, as the cards show in the beginning, you got to survive. So I mean, every one of us. You saw probably Valtteri was right behind me, and we were just sort of running nose to tail, just keeping an eye out for each other to make sure that we could make it through to the end. And you lay back a little bit, especially on those first 2 laps, because you gotta hold on to your resources. You gotta make the tires last, because you don't want to be sitting in the pits for 60 to 90 some seconds, whatever it is, to get those tires changed over. So it was just kind of taking it easy, not driving Miss Daisy perhaps, but just staying focused. I mean, you have to be careful and quick. It's extremely difficult to do here, but the only thing you can do is just keep turning laps to do it.
And is it easier driving around with somebody? Because we had this discussion earlier on. I wouldn't want to be doing 37-minute laps on my Todd. I think I'd want to be following somebody just to keep my brain going, to stop me thinking about what the wife's cooking for dinner, or what shopping I've got to do, or what job she's going to get me to do next. And that would be for me. I don't know what it's like for you out there, Ross, but was it easier driving around with Wu-O? Because you two seemed sort of quite attached at the hip.
Well, we have very similar pace, obviously the same car, so that helps. But it's a double-edged sword, because if you trust the person that you're following to hit the brake marks the way that they should, then you could have some good benefit from it. You can kind of just stay in line and work together, and especially once you get to the long straightaway, you can slipstream and help save some fuel, which is what I was trying to do off of Ethan Funk, so I could shorten up this stop that never happened. So you can definitely hurt yourself pretty badly though if you're stuck behind somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, or just has a lapse of concentration. If they just take it out a little bit too far, and you're right there with them, as you saw with Dahlgren, it just takes a wheel off, just touching a panel against a sidewall just a little bit too much, and it can be catastrophic.
Quick question from Nathaniel McPhee in YouTube. Ross, did you do the track intro?
I did do that, yes. Butchering all of the Italian names I could. I would have loved to have some of our Italian drivers actually get in there and
Dahlgren's in the wall again.
See, this is what you want to have. This is why I said you got to keep your car together for lap 1 and 2, because as your competitors start to do this, that would have given anybody behind him a chance to close that huge gap that he had.
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest, it's been a difficult one, because obviously our software's got a little bit crazy, to be fair, to tell us where anybody actually is. Obviously with that mix-up, we had Becky like 2,216 seconds behind or something ridiculous. So we've been trying to do some maths, which is not always worked. The live timing has just gone completely peaked on after that. Stacey says, bravo, Mr. Smith. So well done to you. Everybody loving your little intro there.
Thanks, I appreciate it. This is such a special track, you want to do something that kind of gives folks who've never seen it or really know about it and its history just kind of an idea of what everyone is getting into, because it really is a staple of sports car endurance racing. Well before Le Mans was, as prestigious as it is today, this is where you went for your long-form sports car endurance racing. And obviously, it's far more demanding. Not to say that Le Mans is easy, but there's just so much more that you have to take on when you're going to this course.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? We talk about this course, and obviously you've got 174 corners when you're at Nords, if you include all the layouts together, 154 if you just do the green hell. But here you've got more, at least 4 or 5 times more than what you've got at Nords. And I think the fact that if people have made it round without any major problems, they've done a great job, right? Because as you see, Castro having a little bit of a slide moment there as well. Cameron Barker putting that left rear of the Alfa Romeo into the wall as well. But I think if they've managed to get round where there hasn't been any major incidents, don't get me wrong, we've seen some Dukes of Hazzard moments of people flying out and flying off, as we can see Becky going past the donkeys, the sheep, and what looks like the rams there. So, yeah, great job from everybody at this circuit, isn't it, to get it actually finished?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of a shame that everything was cut short, because you do run into those situations where drivers are getting fatigued on this last lap. And this is where you would really start to see things come together, because all the different convergence strategies, the Shelbys that may have formed a gap, they have to go in and get that fuel that's going to close up. The Alpines would be good on their tires, so they would start to be coming together as they kind of close in on some of the Porsches. And the Alphas, of course, are kind of a wild card in all of this. I'm not really sure what to say there. But yeah, and we could have seen what happened with JT Tammy. I mean, he actually ended up coming close to getting a 39 at one point. And I mean, he just managed to figure out how to make that C2 work here, which is astounding. I mean, if anybody deserves a round of applause, it's that guy.
Yeah, I think JT in the Corvette is the love of my life anyway. He's the only one that's in there. So, you know, me and JT with the Corvette, absolutely amazing. I love the Corvette in general. One of the things I do want to touch on, though, if these are being told to stay out and they needed to go in for fuel, where are they going to be coming around this lap? They're going to run out, right?
I think only the Shelbys, the Lotus, and the Alpine maybe had to actually refuel because they'd be short. All the other ones would have made it. They didn't have to stop. They could have taken tires, but I'm not sure. I think what's probably going to end up happening is, even though the cars are going around here right now, it'll likely be called at 2 laps, but we'll see what happens, because there's going to be some conversation on how to deal with that.
Well, Becky's on her first lap. She's on her final lap. She's on the run-up from Bivio Polizza into Schillato at this moment in time. So she's got basically about, I would say, a quarter of the lap, but that isn't quarter 6 turns, guys. It's a quarter, another probably 20 minutes. You know, I mean, there's a long way to go, isn't there? And I think this is what this circuit makes it interesting, because one of the questions we had earlier as well was quite an interesting one. Does the 64 cars have seatbelts? Now, after a quick little search, it turned out that actually the 64 cars didn't have seatbelts. And as I said, if you own a 64 sports car, you are not under obligation to put seatbelts in it. So this circuit wasn't about, well, it primarily was about trying to finish the race. Secondly, probably trying to not die on the process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, back in the day, they ran about 10 laps here over the course of 6 hours, and they had driver swaps, but it really felt more like a rally event, and they did do timed releases that way, so the cars were spread out. And not to say they wouldn't come across each other on the track, they definitely did, but it wasn't kind of like what we've done here, where everyone was grouped together and you just kind of move forward with it.
Would you have wanted to drive this circuit, Ross, in its heyday?
Oh yeah, I mean, this would have been great, especially with any one of these cars.
Would you have needed about 5 seatbelts around you, Ross, to keep you in the car seat, though?
Well, I wouldn't be driving like I am in the sim, for sure, especially if I've got, you know, a 50 billion 250 GTO underneath me, for sure. It'd be baby that thing along, but it would just be so cool to kind of go through and absorb that history that's here. It's just, it's amazing. Like, the landscape is beautiful. I mean, the sim does an okay job representing it, but if you actually like look at some of the pictures of the surrounding area, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think I said to ooh, is that George?
I think that's George.
Poor old George, he's had a bit of a rough time of it. He's been up and down the bank, and it's like his modern run all over again, unfortunately, for George. This is a little bit of an issue there. We've got Brad Sellers is another one. Bradley in the Shelby Daytona. As he goes over, he's going to jump out the other side. There he goes, comes and makes it through. I think for me, I'd like to experience the circuit, but I think, you know, would you have to experience it not in a modern day car, but in a Daytona or an Alpha or a Porsche or something along those lines. Even if you put your grandma in the car that reminds you that you've just got to take a gentle cruise, right? You know, and not bin her down the road at 120, 30 mile an hour. But it would be nice to experience it in the cars that it was driven in.
For sure, and unfortunately, they can't really do that across the whole circuit. It's one of the reasons why it ended up being closed down. There was, like I said, Le Mans kind of came into to view as the premier endurance racing course, and it was mostly purpose built, even though you have quite a bit of country roads there. But this place was just too massive. It started off at, I think, like 300 kilometers, and they even had a tour of Sicily. You did a full lap of the island, and they changed it down, and it was, I think, around about 90 miles, and then now it went to its current 45-mile configuration, which is still huge. It's amazing, and even that they couldn't keep people from thinking the race was over and start driving around the track, and then, oh, here comes this race car at 100 miles an hour in your face, or cows making their way across the track, and you can see all the wildlife around, and there were not a whole lot of fences or other things kind of keeping the animals away from the roads, so everything was kind of a hazard.
I think for me that still was great fun. I don't know about you, Brad. What do you reckon? Would it have been great fun to drive around? Maybe come out, obviously, living when you get to the end of the lap?
I still stand on the Sunday cruise decision. I don't know that I would want to I'd want to race, but I'd take a nice Sunday stroll. I don't know about the full speed pedal to the metal race, but I think a nice just drive around would be fun.
Yeah, but I think you'd have to do it in the cars, wouldn't you? Schultz and Castro are going side by side at the moment. Schultz there in 10th, Castro in 9th. They're on their run now, so they've made it through. They're coming up to Scilato, I believe, at the moment. Becky Ely's on the run now from Colisano up to St. Agasta into Contrada Gatto, and then Campo Felice before she gets on to the Bumafella Straight there. So Becky is going to be coming through over the line, which will be deemed a winner. Russ, it's a shame it worked out as it has done for everyone. Are you looking at changes going forward, though? Because are we thinking that this could happen at other race circuits that we've got coming up on the calendar?
I don't believe so. Like I said, this track is very unique in the way that it's set up to deal with its unique properties. But the other tracks I think are going to be fine. It is unfortunate that it's kind of been marred by this, but I think that there's still been a very good amount of good racing going into it. I mean, we got more than halfway for sure, so it can be officially called. But yeah, like I said, those converging strategies would have made that last lap just that much more tantalizing to watch. And certainly for Becky, it would have made, I mean, this win is going to be great. She put it forward at the beginning and said, I want an overall win so badly in VWSC. Uh-oh.
No!
Becky, where's she going?
Okay. I think the server, might have been reset there. I did see talk from John Uyon about about possibly being stopped at the second lap, so that conversation may have jumped in and taken place. Obviously, I'm in here with you guys, so I'm not hearing what's going on, but I can go in and see what's happening. And
yeah, if you
come
can,
right
that
back.
would be amazing.
Oh.
So, unfortunately, it looks like the server has just counted out. Once the leader passes the line, it looks like they only get a certain period of time to cross the line anyway, Brad, don't they? I think that's general in most sims that they only get a certain period of time to cross the line anyway.
Yeah, that is something that most sims have, is they have that timing limit on how things go. But the John Uyan situation, I don't want to comment on it, James. A lot of the drivers have put their opinions in the Discord, and I stand with a lot of the drivers.
I think if we're going to look at it in realistic form, right, and I'm not fussed about having a conversation about something, personally for me, I think he should have quit. If we knew that this was going to be an issue, he should have quit. He should have gone off. He should have left and not come back. To allow everybody else to keep going. that would be the thing, and I think that should have been what, in my conjunction, should have happened. And yes, the race has been called. We've got final confirmation. So I think he should have left. I really do. Honestly, if we knew that this was going to be a problem, should have pulled him out of the race. I agree. If we knew that this was a problem from the moment we started, which we did know, and they must have known, then I think he should have been asked to move over and quit. That would have been my opinion on it.
If I'm a driver in this situation, I tell them not to score the race. That's my opinion. I don't think the race should be scored, period. And it's frustrating because you got to think this has been over 2 hours now of driving, plus weeks of practice for a situation where the driver's starting in the garage for the way a track is coded to screw over half the field, to put it frankly. I mean, it's very... And the thing is, John Uyan had to know. And everyone had to know. I mean, we even went and I said, hey, can everyone verify what lap we're on? And they said, hey, we're on lap 2. And I said, okay, we are showing lap 3 in the broadcast. Can we double check something? And nothing ever got called. You know, and I feel for drivers like De Bruin, who tried to pit in at the end of that lap 2 and then just got stuck because they were behind John Uyan on track. So, I mean, there's nothing they were trying to pit for fuel and tires to run their final lap. So, yeah. I mean, everyone gets absolutely messed from it. I mean, it's frustrating for me as a spectator, and I can only feel for the drivers. So
the problem is with this isn't the fact that it's all done what it's done and what's happened. The problem is all of them guys that have spent hours practicing. And guys and girls, sorry. Yeah, don't worry. I wasn't being any there. I just literally was in perspective. Have now gone and had it puffed. And I think, I don't know. I'll tell you what, Ross is back in the booth, right? And obviously, as we know, Ross is one of the main runners here and part of the SGS and everything else. Ross, on our situation for it, right? We've come out, I've come out because Brad's staying on the fence because he don't want to get himself in trouble, where unfortunately I really don't mind. We basically have said, when that issue was made, do we not think that John should have left?
Yes, although hindsight is 2020, and in the moment, I don't think he realized the effect it was going to have and what it was doing, just because when the call to grid happened, it basically just became a technical issue that threw him in the back. And I don't know if he really understood what was happening or what the implications would be once that was starting to happen. So we obviously, John's thing made this happen, but I mean, I don't think anyone's going to go after John and blame him specifically for it. But we know what's going to happen now with that, and we can guard against that in the future. And it's unfortunate, but this happens to real races too, where things just take place. We saw the Daytona 24 end a little bit early this year, and not quite as big of a deal. I mean, them losing a lap versus us, but yeah, I think that there's still good results here. The drivers, of course, wanted to see the rest of this play out. We all did, just because we were going for another little bit here. But
some of the comments we've got on YouTube, our great news source of the YouTube conversations, Mr. Reese, there should be a redo. That's one option. Oliver Newman, results shouldn't count. I know if I DNF'd, but those who could have gained positions lost a chance. Stacey, I feel I've got myself a name here. On the bright side, James, there was no blue flag issues. I don't know what they're saying here, Ross. I'm not quite sure what they're implying.
She's good. Stacey's good.
Mr. Reese, I think. Hold on, Mr. Reese. I think you must have known, and he was in lap 2 from the start, basically, and then obviously Stacey's come back again in an epic race. Becky, I'm super proud. So yeah, fair point to them. But that's the thing. I think that's what we were talking about. It's kind of like all of the drivers have gone out and practiced on a 37 to 42 minute lap, taken the time out, and at the moment unless we do have a rerun, it's all for nothing.
Yeah, I don't know how you. I stand on two fields. One, call it a lap 2, and
Yeah.
I still think a conversation needs to be had
So
about did John
Oh.
Uyan know from the beginning. Of course, George is here now, and I'm sure George is about to backhand
so
me.
just to reiterate on what happened. So the results stand as of lap 2. There was no significant overtaking happening on lap 3, so they stand as of lap 2. So Becky Ely gets the win in Division 1 and 2 and overall over Dan Kirby. Then we have the Magnus Dahlgren on Division 3, the win, and then second win in 3 races. And then we have Tom Mountjoy, his first career win in CMS and VWC, if I am not mistaken, and in the win in Division 1 and 2 AMS, a lap down. And then yours truly for Division 3 AM car. So that's the winning the winning drivers. What happened in there was that John Uyan missed the start of the race and decided to start from pit lane, but he did not allow the entire grid to pass. So if you miss a start, when the green is thrown, according to the regulations, you have to go at the back of the grid and start from pit lane. That was not what was done by John Uyan, and the timing was affected. So that's what happened.
Okay, well, we've got Kim Dilly in YouTube chat. Let's just run it back now. She says she's not busy for the evening. So if you wanted to jump everybody back in again and start again, I guess that would please Kim. But I suppose we better start then, George, with an interview with yourself for the winning driver in Div 3. Well done, George.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very, very difficult race for me. I think you guys saw I rolled the car on the first sector on the first lap. And after that, I was struggling a lot because there was a pull from one side. The suspension of the car was not ideal, which caused premature wear on my front tires and then premature wear on my brakes. So about second lap, halfway through, I had to give up. Like I couldn't keep up with anybody else. So I had a minute and 20 seconds or 30 seconds lead from Jerry. And I just put it in there and cruised. I was so mentally exhausted, fighting the car all the time. The car was not doing what I wanted to do, and I had so much understeer and so much brake fade that basically I gave up. I just took it for a Sunday drive.
That's what we said we would have done. I'd have put my picnic in the back with my grandma and stopped halfway round. You did get to see quite a lot of bit of the countryside though, George, didn't you, at some points? Yeah,
so in the first lap, which I felt I could keep up with Neil Wood, who was in a Division 1 and 2 car. So I had a good run, and I kept behind him, using him as a pick basically. And when we passed Colesano, the second town, there is a collection of like fast corners that the Division 1 and 2 car apparently can take much faster than a Division 3 car. That there were some corners that went wide, and I had to come back and then just tune it down.
Yeah, well, you did a great job there, George, of course. How much practice did you put in?
Not a lot, not some of those guys. I put, let's see, I would say a couple of 5-6 hours, including the race on MNRL. So about a total of, I don't know, 8-10 laps. I broke my lap record into the race today. So I broke the 41-minute barrier. But I know that Becky and some other guys were talking about they were having practice since December. So yeah, can't compete with that.
No, definitely not. I think time doesn't allow us, George. So, you know what I mean? But well done, buddy. Congratulations on your victory there. Let's go forward and we'll catch up and have a chat with Tom Mountjoy now as we bring Tom down. Hopefully I can. Yes, I can. And we'll bring Tom in to the booth. Tom, welcome in there, buddy. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. It's a great feeling to get a win at Targa Florio for Sim Junkies Team Hardtail.
And you survived.
Well, it was rough, that's for sure. I put some damage on the car in lap 1. I was going to go the whole race without stopping for fuel, but since I got that damage, I had to pit anyway. So that took that strategy out the window. But in the end, it paid off. I knew that survival was going to be the key at this track.
Mm. And we're on the understanding that is that your first ever VWSC CMS win?
Yes, sir.
Your first class win?
Yes, sir.
And you do it at a racetrack with over 600 corners?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder why you can't do it over 12, Tom, doesn't it?
Well, I did wreck a few times, and like I said in that first lap, but I have run this track since R Factor 1, so I'm a bit familiar with it over the years.
Well, I got to be honest. I think for you to take your victory here is absolutely amazing, and I think we should probably run it again anyway. With all the little ta-ta-tas and controversies we've had going on this evening as well. But I think for you, Tom, how tough was it out there? Because we're only up here in the booth, right? Me and Brad, and we sit and talk, and Paul's in the background, whispering in our ear roll. But we don't quite get the true experience of what you've got.
Right. You guys need to get out there and give it a go. It's just intense mental pressure to try to keep up with every corner just coming at you, one right after the other. And you're just trying to get to that straightaway, in sector 3 so you can rest a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I would, Tom. And if I did, it would be very slowly.
Well, what you need to do is what I recommend recommended to some of the other drivers that had never really been there before is just take a Sunday drive. Imagine you're in your real car, driving in a countryside, and just enjoy the scenery and just take it in, and don't try to get crazy.
Yeah, making sure we avoid the wildlife.
Well, there were a few cars too that had trouble in front of me that I had to pass that were quite interesting.
We did see a good old pile up as well, with a little bit of a parking lot at one point. It was about 7 cars careering into each other.
Oh yeah, I'm glad I didn't run into that. The ones I came upon were only about 2 cars, but yes, a few cars off track that you had to avoid. And it was interesting. I let a few people by that I knew were faster than me, which was a good thing because I was just holding them up. And they weren't in my class, so it doesn't make sense to do that.
Okay, Tom. Well, thank you so much for joining us there, buddy. Anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
Oh, just all my friends at Sim Junkies that are watching, and also everyone at CMS that puts all these things together. It's a real tough job, and I really appreciate all the effort. Thanks again.
Awesome stuff. No worries, Tom. Thanks so much for joining us.
For the broadcast. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care. Right, next up, we will bring in Magnus Dahlgren into the booth alongside us. Magnus, welcome in, buddy. How are you?
Thank you. I'm a bit tumbled, but okay.
Magnus, I want to ask you a question. Do you drive in VR?
No, single screen.
Oh, thank God for that, because your barrel roll of about 20 barrel rolls down the side of the circuit there would have probably caused you to spin right out in your head.
I mean, there must be some kind of record. I don't know how many times I rolled over.
No, we couldn't even get an accurate count on the broadcast. We tried it on board, we tried it off board, and we didn't really come up with a figure, to be blatantly honest, either. What was it like out there? Obviously, we saw your barrel roll that was rather spectacular. We saw a couple of off tracks in the process. How just tell us from your own perspective, how tough was it?
First lap, the first sector was kind of hard because of the traffic, and then the rest of it in the second lap was pretty okay, but the third lap was the barrel lap with deteriorated rear tires, which were the cause of it.
How tough was it on the tires, do we think, as well? Did you think you could get to the end on one set, or do you feel you may have needed to change it?
I could have made it on one set, obviously, but I was just a bit too I wasn't careful enough in the last lap.
Yeah, well, great job from you, Magnus, and you did survive after doing loads of flips. Did you have damage from that once you rolled it?
Yeah, the whole car was dark blue. Nice.
Nice. Well, great job from you there, buddy, and well done for getting to the end. Anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
To you guys and to CMS and SGS, and as well as my girlfriend who's watching at home sick. I hope she enjoyed it, even though it ended prematurely.
Yeah, never mind there as well. You better go and treat her nice now, Magdalene. If she's sick, go and look after her and feed her grapes.
Will do.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Cheers.
And next up is your overall winner eventually. When we did the maths, she decimated the field in qualifying. She's decimated the field in the race. And she did it all in a Lotus 23B with a little skateboard on wheels. But let's bring her into the booth. A young lady herself, Miss Becky Ely. Welcome in, Becky.
Hi, James. Thank you very much. How are you, Bradley and Paul, doing?
We're doing very well. We spent most of that race, to be honest with you, 50% confused as to what was going on.
With John Uyan.
Yes, that literally stopped us. It literally killed the timing software. It was all very interesting, and we pretty spent most of the broadcast confused as to what was going to actually happen. But what has come out of it is you managed to get halfway round on the third lap, and you won the race overall. So I suppose that's a plus, right? And you won your class.
Yeah, I had about 7 minutes to go, and then it scared the absolute bejesus out of me because I thought another technical problem for me. But then when it happened to be everyone, I was like, good, but kind of takes the wind out of the out of sails. Like, this is my first ever overall win, and when you've got to beat the enigma that is Dan Kirby to get an overall win, they're not going to come very often. And I feel like it was a bit of an anticlimactic. Like, I wanted to cross that line. So it's awesome, and I'm super happy. But it's a little deflating that I didn't get to finish.
See, we did say that. And as you know, I'm quite outspoken, and Brad was sat on the fence. We did say the practice that people have put in and the fact that you got so close to being near the end of the race and not being able to come around and listen to me cheer you over, I think, is it a bit of pill to swallow? Does it just take that little shine in the edge off?
It does, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is the race of the whole year. The one race that I really want to win. Like, I'm hoping that me, Ben and Yuki, we can go for the team's championship. I don't think any of us are expecting to go for the driver championship. We're all just like, let's go for the teams. We don't care who wins. At last race, Ben, I was following Ben. I was like, I'm not going to overtake you, Ben. This is your race. Then right at the end, he was like, no, after you, because he was a bit boxed in. You go win the race. And we just, like, we don't really care who wins as long as it's one of us Lotuses. But this race I actually did want to win. So, yeah, like, it's sad, but it's also amazing. Like, I'm so happy that I kept it together because I had a few scary moments. Went on a scenic safari across the Sicilian mountains for a while. But yeah, so I don't know, it's absolutely incredible and a bit rubbish at the same time. It's confusing.
Yeah, well, Nathaniel says, great job, Becky. Stacy says, yay, Becky, in big capital letters. Here's a question for you, though, as well. Corey in YouTube chat, the results, the race results should have been null and void. Now, there was a suggestion about rerunning this race. Earlier on in YouTube, they've come up with lots of suggestions. They've gone a little bit crazy since all these conspiracies happened. So, for you, what would be your ideal scenario? Do you think if George come out and Ross come out and said, right, next weekend, we're doing it again. No mess ups. Everybody gets on the grid. If you don't make the grid, you wait till the end. If you don't get past that, you just quit out, right? Because that was one of the suggestions that we had here. John must have known somewhere along the lines what was going on, and he should have quit in general. How would you feel if they come around and said, right, we're going to start it from exactly the same qualified times, we're going to rerun it again?
I mean, that kind of gets rid of everything I did in the race, which isn't cool. But, more Targa.
But do you think you could do it again?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, give another week and Dan Kirby would be faster than me, so that would present a problem. But I don't know. It'd be nice to actually finish, but it's kind of harsh to take away everything people did, like Tom Mountjoy, who won his first race, George, who had an excellent race. Like,
George went off in the wildlife a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm sure you've all seen series like DTM where they have 2 races. The day before the race, exact same track. The next day, completely different result. So that's kind of what I'd expect, and that's a bit harsh on people. There's just no real ideal result. Yeah.
No.
But also, thank you, Nathaniel and Stacey. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
well, there's been more. Becky worked her butt off to get this win. She deserves to have it. Counts. Neil Borman, brilliant, Becky. Well done, Mr. Reese. I have no doubt Becky would win again. She was consistently on top.
Yeah, I do doubt.
The love is
Becky will win
real. You'll have
again.
to get some signed photographs out. Stick them up on a Becky website. Charge £5. You make a little killing, could you?
Yeah, I wouldn't charge. It'd all be free.
Oh, God blimey. Well, yeah, we should put you in power. You know what I mean? Maybe you can teach
I'd make
government
a great overlord.
Oh,
I'd be a benevolent dictator.
Oh,
It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, it's not much different to what we're getting now, to be fair, in the UK. But anyway, so going forward for you, well done. Right, let's not completely, rain on your parade or wash out your fireworks. Clearly, I'm making that a little bit cleaner, that statement. But I think going forward, you've won. You've proven a point that you've got the pace in that car. You've proven a point that your capability, and you've done it at a 600 and something cornered race circuit, which not many people are able to do that, to take that as an overall.
Yeah, it's the one that I wanted, because you're not going to get a bigger challenge and a more epic track. So that's part of the reason that I was really going for this one, and it's just so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, I think me and you may have had a different perspective of what fun is. I'm not entirely sure. I probably would have made it round. I think I probably might have just given up and joined the cows and the donkeys and everything else that we saw on the way round in the field. To be honest,
that's nice views.
Yeah, get a picnic out, sit down with me little blanket, sit there. Yeah, red wine, bit of cheese, all good. Stacey says she wants an autograph, so crack on.
Yeah, I don't know how to do digital autographs. That's probably easier. I can do a digital autograph. Sign a little picture of my Lotus.
Yeah, well, that works as well. Becky, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure, as you know, darling. Anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
I would like to give a big shout out to Ben and Yuki, because Ben has been cheering me on. He unfortunately wasn't able to make this race, but he's been cheering me on and helping me learn to drive the Lotus. And even before that, Yuki was helping me learn to drive the Lotus. The setup I used today was amalgamation of 2 of Yuki's setups. So thank you very much for that, Yuki. If you ever see this, he's very busy with work as well. So I was just trying to keep it going for the team, and that's worked out. And then also just a big thank you to everyone at CMS and SGS. Like this mod is just the most fun thing ever. Like, they've never driven a car that is more fun than this Lotus. But there's one last thing that I do have to say. I told my dad I'm driving a Lotus 23B in a series, and the first thing he went, "Oh, that's a fantastic car, twin cam engine." I don't know if you've noticed, but it says Lotus Ford on this, not Lotus twin cam. The first thing someone knows about Lotus says, "Oh, Lotus twin cam engine." Just put that out there, that it should say twin cam.
Well, there we go. Thank you so much for that one. We'll leave that one for you, Becky, on that. But much appreciated, my love, and thank you so much for joining
thank you
us.
to you guys as well. Like, awesome commentary. And I'm looking forward to listening to you all get confused.
Yeah, well, it started right at the beginning, to be blatantly honest. But when you got Paul in your ear, it's enough to get confused anyway, to be honest. So, yeah, have fun with that, and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Brad, I don't know where I feel or what the taste is in regards to this. It's you're right. You don't want to take the silver lining away from Becky's win, but she's also not come across the line in that winning position.
You don't want to take the win away from Becky and from all the drivers that have worked so hard, but it's also, it's the fact that they let John Uyen run that long, knowing there was an issue. For me, I'm frustrated with it, because you don't want to take away from any of those drivers, But also, you can't tell me nobody was aware there was an issue. There was the question of, were admin racing too? Yes, but whenever I jumped up, I said, hey, what lap are we on? And, I got a confident answer back of, oh, we're on lap 2. And that didn't include anyone, but it sounds like someone was aware somewhere there was an issue. If it wasn't John Uyen, someone else had to have been aware that there was an issue. So the fact that nothing was figured out in an hour and a half between the start of the race and the end of lap 2, it leaves a poor thing. Like, do we have the FIA running this? Like,
Is this Michael Massey moment? Is this the VWSC, the CMS, the SGS, the TCP, and any other acronym that you can think of? Is this our Abu Dhabi moment? Is this the one that's going to harp on for ages?
Yes, this is, and it's frustrating for me. Like, and I'm going to get in trouble, James, because I sent a message to Paul of my opinion on it, because I cannot say it out loud and maintain professional. But my opinion is race should be null and void. I love you, Becky Ely, but my opinion is the fact that was allowed to run for an hour and a half just negates this entire race, in my opinion, because people messed up pit strategies and people messed things up. Because if you had thought that this race was 2 laps and not 3, you're going to race completely different for 2 laps and not 3. It doesn't keep it through. And then also, my question becomes, what happened? Why did we let John Uyen stay on track? Why did we not kick John Uyen off track? Why did we not make John Uyen pit for a 45-minute lap? Like, what was the decision there that nobody thought to say, oh, John Uyen just came out and, half the thing is, running through and fine. Oh, well, we can let this race run on for 2 laps. Let's experiment and see what happens at probably the biggest race on the historic calendar. I don't get it. And you can't make it make sense to me. I'm not going to be happy with any decision that comes out of this race, because if they void this entire race, Becky Ely and every class winner gets completely jacked out of points. If they call the race at the end of lap 2, then all of those drivers that pitted and had pit strategies and had things going just get completely jacked out of their race as well, because they would have ran this race different if they'd known it was 2 laps and not 3. So there's not a good answer for any of this. Michael Massey, get out of this league.
Well, there you go. Mr. Reese, this FIA president has to go. I do agree. But I think before we run on for the next 45 minutes, JT Tammy, FYI, there are no yellow flags here, so surprise. Well done for you. We're basically gonna wrap this up, I think, because we could be here all night debating this, and I think at the end of the day, I don't think anything me, Brad, or even Paul whispers in my ear was going to change any different. So for now, guys, I think that's going to bring this one up to an end. Thank you so much to everybody that has joined us here. There's been so many of you in YouTube chat. I can't run through you all, but you know who you are. Much love to every single person. But for now, guys, from us up here in the JPB booth, take care, have a great week, and you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.